Chapter 755. After Chu Qingyan finished speaking, she saw that the big ice block was just staring at her in a daze without any reaction. She was even more certain that the big ice block was sick. She quickly raised her hand to touch his forehead to check his temperature, but she didn't expect him to push her hand away. "I don't have a fever." After saying that, Xiao Su complained, "No, I think I really do have a fever. That's why I'm saying all this nonsense to you." After saying that, Xiao Su felt that he needed to calm down. As soon as he got up, someone tugged at his sleeve. He didn't want to lower his head because he was a dignified lord. Going to this extent for her had already exceeded his status. Or rather, for many men, it was shocking. At that moment, he remembered his status. More importantly, if he lowered his head, he would see her reluctant eyes. He didn't want to compromise again. "Don't be in a hurry to leave. Talk to me. Otherwise, you'll be busy with work again and I won't see you for the whole day." Chu Qingyan realized that her big ice block wasn't sick at all. Instead, he was so angry at her words that he turned to leave. She didn't know what she had said wrong, but it was always right to give in. As soon as he heard her soft pleading voice, Xiao Su knew that he had fallen for her for the rest of his life. Forget it. He turned around, put one hand on her shoulder, and lifted her chin with the other. He didn't give her time to react before he covered her. Chu Qingyan didn't expect him to suddenly do this, but when he leaned over, she obediently closed her eyes. This feeling came suddenly and intensely. Chu Qingyan couldn't take it anymore as her entire body leaned against him. His palms slid down her round shoulders and landed on her waist. Then he abruptly pulled her closer. His lips and teeth swept across her territory as if he was punishing her, but also seemed to be announcing something. In any case, it was like a violent storm. She only felt that her mind was blank. Messy emotions and surging emotions covered all her thoughts. She could only cling to the person in front of her. She felt like she was drifting in the vast sea, and he was her only driftwood that she could only hold on tightly. Xiao Su couldn't help but soften his brows when he saw the woman in his arms relying wholeheartedly on him. After everything calmed down, Chu Qingyan leaned into his arms, unable to stop feeling embarrassed and angry. "Your arm is injured, and you don't know how to control yourself." Xiao Su stroked her long hair and said, "I know what I'm doing and I won't hurt you." Just now, he had carefully avoided touching her wound. Moreover, how could he bear to see her hurt when she was the most important person in his heart? Chu Qingyan snorted. Since the big ice block had said so, she could only let him be. Later, Chu Qingyan realized that ever since she got together with Big Ice Cube, she seemed to have become more and more thick-skinned. She could accept his intimacy at any time. After they got together, Big Ice Cube liked to hug and caress her more and more when they were alone. Chu Qingyan broke out in a cold sweat for him when she heard that men of his age were like wolves and tigers. Fortunately, he was always able to stop at the critical moment. Otherwise, she didn't dare to think about it anymore as her face heated up. Xiao Su didn't know what the person in his arms was thinking about when she suddenly became so quiet. He stroked her hair gently, his chin resting on her head that was slightly curled up from lying down for the past 2 days, and asked casually, "You don't like me saying those words?" Chu Qingyan came back to her senses. She was still a little dazed when she heard what he said. She thought about how she had almost angered the big ice cube just now. She immediately thought about the scene just now and carefully touched it. Finally, there was light. "Big Ice Cube, it's not that I don't like it, it's just..." When she said this, she didn't know how to continue. "It's just what?" Xiao Su frowned. "It doesn't feel like something you would normally say." She pursed her lips. "Didn't you say before that you wanted me to pass your test? What did you forget? Or you don't like this method?" Xiao Su asked with a straight face. But who would have guessed that his mood right now was in turmoil for the first time? It was like he had learned how to write for the first time and couldn't wait to show it to his imperial mother to see if she would like it. But this time, there was a different feeling. It was like, Chu Qingyan's eyes widened. It felt like this little fellow had forgotten. Then he had spent so many days organizing and staying up late to study and figure it out. Wasn't he feeding an ingrate? Chu Qingyan finally remembered that in the carriage, after the two of them had openly expressed their feelings for the first time, she didn't want Big Ice Cube to think that she was a casual person, so she had left a difficult question to test him. She didn't think that she would completely forget about it, but he had wholeheartedly remembered it and wanted to give her the best answer. But hearing this snort now, different from before, Chu Qingyan raised her head. The first thing she saw was Big Ice Cube's clean and beautiful chin. Then she looked away and saw his earlobe. And it was a little red. She smiled foolishly. Big Ice Cube, you're shy? Quickly lower your head and let me see if your face is red. Xiao Su's body stiffened and his cheeks heated up. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. I was talking to you properly, but you're talking to the ends of the earth. You're my god. Quickly let me see if the sky is filled with rosy clouds. She didn't give up. It was rare to see Big Ice Cube being shy, so how could she let it go so easily? Thus, she struggled to get up and see what was going on. This was a rare encounter, and she didn't know when she would see him again. Xiao Su didn't think that she would have such thoughts. Hearing this, he immediately clamped down on her hands and tried to avoid her injury. But once she made up her mind, she wouldn't settle down. It really gave him a headache. He suddenly realized that he was reaping what he sowed. With this struggle, she accidentally pulled on the wound on her chest. Chu Qingyan showed a pained expression. Xiao Su felt that she suddenly settled down and couldn't help but frown. He thought that her wound was hurting, but he couldn't care less. He lowered his head and saw her pale face. He wanted to scold her harshly, but he couldn't bear to. In the end, he said with pity, I told you not to move, but you insisted on making yourself uncomfortable. Let's see if you're in pain now. And when he lowered his head, Chu Qingyan saw the expression on his face. She couldn't help but grit her teeth in pain. She said proudly, Big Ice Cube, you're really blushing. Xiao Su didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was still concerned about this at this time. Stop fooling around. That faint blush, because of his worry, dissipated slightly. It was almost impossible to see clearly, but she seized the moment and her eyes were already mesmerized. It was as if she was on top of a cold, snowy mountain in Tianshan. The last rays of the setting sun poured down on the sparkling white snow, covered with a light veil of red. This was how the world's most stunning beauty was. It was so clean and clear that it was breathtaking. When the pain in her chest subsided, she blinked under his gaze. Suddenly, she reached out and held his face with both hands. While he was puzzled, she delivered herself to him. Chapter 756. How could she not understand his feelings for her? It was just that sometimes it was a little slow and she couldn't understand it all at once. But as long as she saw his worried eyes, she would feel as though something was pulling her closer to him. Then it would guide her and tell her that this person had the deepest feelings hidden in his heart. Xiao Su didn't want her to suddenly come closer. He only reacted when she took the initiative to invite him into her territory when the two of them were pressed against each other. It was rare for her to take the initiative, so it would be impolite for him to refuse. Very quickly, he took the initiative and turned the tables. He teased her until she was panting before reluctantly letting go of her. When they were leaning against each other, Chu Qingyan spoke first. Big Ice Cube, I think you're really cute. When a certain someone who had just had his fill heard this, his face was suddenly full of different colors. He narrowed his eyes. Cute? You think this word is suitable? There was a hint of threat in his tone. Chu Qingyan giggled and blinked mischievously. Big Ice Cube, you're really too cute. Is the punishment not enough? A dangerous aura was approaching. Chu Qingyan quickly put her hands on his chest to stop him from coming closer. She quickly smiled apologetically. Because I really like what you said just now. Xiao Su paused and looked at her to see if she was just brushing him off. Chu Qingyan struck while the iron was hot. She leaned her head on his chest and wrapped her arms around his waist. Her expression was full of dependence. Xiao Su didn't know what she was thinking, but the beauty throwing herself into his arms made his mood a lot better. Then he heard her laugh. Big Ice Cube, there's a mountain between a man and a woman. You've just taken the first step, so there's still a long way to go. Xiao Su's hand, which was about to be placed on her back, stopped in midair when he heard that. A helpless smile appeared on his lips. This little fellow always had a way to make his heart follow her around in circles, up and down, up and down, up and down. However, when he heard the slyness in her words, her shyness and her feigned calmness, his frown slowly dissipated. He hugged the person in his arms lovingly and pitifully. Sometimes, I really don't know what to do with you. He could not help but shake his head. Pamper me and dote on me. She boasted shamelessly. But when she said this, she didn't dare to look at the person in front of her. She buried her head in his arms, and the heat on her face was enough to fry an egg. Xiao Su smiled and did not tease her. Instead, he tightened his arms around her. When Hua Ling reported that a guest had arrived, Xiao Su finally let go of her. He raised his hand and tapped her nose, saying, "If you have nothing to do, then rest more. Don't think too much. That little head of yours can't hold so many things." Chu Qingyan laughed and nodded. After Xiao Su left, he ordered Xining to bring some books from his library. When Xining came back with the books, she couldn't help saying, "Master, His Highness already told you to rest properly. Why are you still reading such profound books?" Because Xining had been by her side since she was 10 years old, when she had free time, Chu Qingyan would teach her how to read and write, so it was not difficult for Xining to learn how to read. At this moment, Xining was holding a book about military strategies and formations. The other book was about various countries. Chu Qingyan reached out and the two books were placed in front of her. She picked one and placed it on her knees. Then she tilted her head and smiled. You can't be content with the status quo and bite off more than you can chew. You can't stop moving forward just because you have someone you can rely on. When you like someone, you don't want him to be your shelter from the wind and rain, nor do you want yourself to be his weakness. I work hard and keep charging myself. It's not to be worthy of him, but to keep pace with him. When he succeeds, I'll be the first one to turn around and see him when he wants to share it. When he's in danger, I'll be the first one to reach out to him. When he's weak, I'll be the first one to embrace him. If I can't keep up with his footsteps, or if he can't find me when he needs me the most, no matter if we can still be together in the future, I will blame myself for my mistakes during that time." Saying this, Chu Qingyan sniffed and then smiled brightly. "Xining, you will understand in the future." Xining stood there in a daze. She looked down at the book that was quietly and seriously flipped through. There was an indescribable resonance in her heart. "Master, this servant can understand." Because when standing next to Jin Xin, this servant can always feel the distant feeling from him. It is not because of Jin Xin's alienation, but because of the noble aura that comes from his bones. So this servant also wants to be like Master and work hard. To be a woman worthy of him. Because Xining understood very early on, a long time later, when she saw the immortal couple standing at the top of the world, she felt joy and pride for them from the bottom of her heart. At this time, Lin Fengyi had been sitting in the study for a while. When he saw the person who walked in, he couldn't help but smile. "You are willing to come out of the land of tenderness? What do you want to say now?" Xiao Su glanced at him before walking to the seat of honor and lifting his robe to sit down. As soon as he entered, Lin Fengyi felt a completely different aura from his good friend. Now that he said this, his good friend retracted his rare tenderness and the corners of his eyes curved slightly. "It seems that I came at the wrong time." Xiao Su was too lazy to pay attention to him. "Take care. I won't see you out." Lin Fengyi laughed. "You can't take a joke?" Xiao Su looked at him with slight interest and said faintly, "That flower girl from last time, do you have any relationship with her?" When Lin Fengyi heard this, the smile on his face disappeared. "I don't have any relationship with her." Don't casually make personal attacks just to change the topic. Xiao Su hesitated. "Is that so?" This prince's good friend, who usually doesn't reveal his true nature, is always gentle and courteous no matter if he is facing evil officials, honest officials, or good citizens. However, he rarely revealed his true nature 2 days ago. The other party is even a young girl. This really makes this prince curious. Could it be that our humble and gentle official Lin has a change of personality? When Lin Fengyi heard this, he was momentarily stunned. When Xiao Su saw his strange expression, he knew that he had caught his weak spot. He picked up his tea and calmly sipped it. After a while, Lin Fengyi's expression returned to normal, as if the person who was in a daze just now was not him. The two of them tacitly started to talk about today's official business. Between good friends, there was no need for unnecessary explanations and concealment. Why did you specially come to look for me today? Xiao Su took the initiative to ask. When Lin Fengyi heard this, the corners of his lips curled up and a sly smile flashed across his eyes. I came to talk to you about compensation. Compensation? Xiao Su frowned. Don't forget that a few days ago, you burned down a large forest in the east. Chapter 757. Hearing his good friend's words, Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Are you sure that I was the one who set the fire? So I should be the one to bear the loss? Isn't that the case? Lin Fengyi retorted. Xiao Su chuckled. Do you have witnesses? Do you have material evidence? Lin Fengyi was speechless. If you don't have evidence, then there's nothing I can do. Xiao Su shrugged. Lin Fengyi was speechless. In the end, he could only laugh and shake his head. To be honest, I was just joking with you. I didn't expect you to turn the tables on me. Indeed, one is marked by the company one keeps. Your wife is doing very well in Jiangnan now. If she wasn't smart, she wouldn't be able to do so well. She has been by your side for so many years. I can see that you have been assimilated by her craftiness. Xiao Su felt that something was amiss. Are you doubting my intelligence? Lin Fengyi smiled apologetically. I wouldn't dare. You are a young talent. No one would dare to doubt you. Xiao Su didn't reply. He just looked at him coldly. Lin Fengyi had trained himself to be calm and composed in the officialdom. Being stared at by his good friend, he was even more calm. Oh, you're really giving me a hard time? Lin Fengyi deliberately twisted his words and complained that he was wronged. Xiao Su face-bombed. This Lin Fengyi would only act so shamelessly in front of him. Although he and Ling Feng gave off different vibes on the surface, at least Ling Feng gave off the same vibe on the surface. On the other hand, Lin Fengyi appeared to be a gentleman on the surface, but behind his back, he could make people's jaws drop. Using Ling Feng's evaluation after suffering losses from him in the past, he was extremely sinister. In the eyes of the people of Jiangnan, these two words were not just a little bit out of place on the magistrate, who was so just and strict. Say it. What's the matter? Xiao Su didn't want to waste any more time with him. He simply threw out the main topic. All right, I'm just teasing you. It's just that you exude an aura that makes people envious. A single dog like me can't stand it. Lin Fengyi admitted it openly. Then he continued. In the past few days, I've heard a lot about your family's crazy buying spree in Jiangnan. Many people are talking about continuing the product. Luckily, I don't have any women in my manor, otherwise, I would be bankrupt. You don't know how many officials under me have started to tighten their belts to live. All of them have been squandered by their wives and daughters. At this moment, I suddenly feel that it's not bad to be alone. I don't have to eat tofu and salted vegetables for 3 meals, Lin Fengyi sneered. When Lin Fengyi was about to bring up the main topic, Xiao Su suddenly asked, What product are you talking about? Lin Fengyi, who had been interrupted, was stunned at first. Then he subconsciously replied, Continuation. This is the name that your little princess consort came up with. At first, it sounds quite strange, but after thinking about the concept of the product, it's quite compatible. I have to say, the creativity is quite good. Xiao Su didn't hear what he said next. His whole heart was on that one word. Continuing? Continuing. Continuing. Unknowingly, a smile appeared at the corners of his eyes and mouth. His facial features had always been elegant and upright. Now that he was smiling sincerely, his entire face seemed to be emitting a dazzling light that no one dared to look directly at. Lin Fengyi looked up. He was slightly surprised when he saw this. Why did his good friend suddenly look like this? He had never seen him look like this before. Did he say something just now? Lin Feng pondered. Could it be that there was something special about this name? Aren't they just 2 very common words? Wait, continuing? A look of understanding flashed across his eyes. He looked deeply at his good friend in front of him. So it was like that. That little girl was indeed very intelligent. At the same time, he could tell that she was sincere to Xiao Su. Otherwise, why would she miss him so much? Xiao Su's expression only changed for a moment. He quickly retracted his strange emotions. He didn't take it to heart that he lost his composure in front of his good friend. Continue with your business. Once he returned to the main topic, his expression became serious. Lin Fengyi suddenly felt that he had been hit in the heart by the public display of affection. But what could he say now? He could only sigh in his heart and continue. Although your young princess consort is reliable in her work, the product this time can be said to be unconventional. Furthermore, the way she promoted it. Lin Fengyi paused as a faint look of admiration appeared in his eyes. It is unheard of and unseen. Even I, as a man, have heard of a lot of news and promotions. I cannot deny that Qing Yan has a business acumen. But, just say it. Xiao Su could hear that there was something wrong with his praise. Lin Fengyi's smile was like the spring wind and rain, careless and slightly warm. But the words he said were direct and cruel. I have to tell you about the Jiangnan market. Even though I've been here for at least a year, it's still hard for me to fully immerse myself in this business circle. Many of them are century-old brands. More of them are related to the high officials and nobles of the capital. Don't look at how the market is thriving and harmonious. Once it affects the interests of others, the complicated relationships are enough to make people suffer. If it's light, they'll lose money to avoid disaster and can make a comeback in the future. If it's heavy, they'll lose everything and never be able to make a comeback. So you mean? Xiao Su looked at him with a frown. Lin Fengyi smiled faintly, but his tone was somewhat disapproving. Qing Yan acted a little too hastily this time and was too high profile. She might have become a thorn in the side of many people. Don't look at how most people in Jiangnan are gentle and kind on the surface. That's because you haven't touched their interests. Once you do, it won't be as simple as biting back at you. So you might have to remind her to be more careful. Xiao Su understood. His good friend was an official in Jiangnan. Moreover, he usually had few desires. For him to specially remind him today was already giving him preferential treatment. When Ayan was in this industry, she discussed it with me. I support her approach. Her products are too unique. Even if she doesn't strongly promote them, she'll still become the focus of attention in Jiangnan. So she might as well amaze everyone from the start. Xiao Su's explanation didn't surprise Lin Fengyi at all. He chuckled. It's fine if you don't do anything, but amaze everyone with a single brilliant feat. It's indeed your style of doing things. Qing Yan has been by your side for so long. It's no wonder she's been influenced by your style of doing things. Thank you for the compliment. Xiao Su accepted this compliment without any pressure. Lin Fengyi choked. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the end, he could only shake his head. Qing Yan dares to be in the limelight in Jiangnan right from the start. I think it's all because you've spoiled her. Xiao Su brushed his sleeves and said in a very normal tone, if I don't spoil my own woman, who else can I spoil? Chapter 758. If I don't spoil my own woman, who else can I spoil? You think I'll spoil you? You're thinking too much. It's rare for me to spoil someone in my life, and I'll only spoil this one person. I might as well let her do whatever she wants. Even if she messes up the sky, I'll help her clean it up. Lin Fengyi's eyes widened. He rarely lost his composure, but he was still stunned by his good friend's straightforward display of his true feelings. Xiao Su turned around after he finished speaking. He saw his good friend looking straight at him without changing his expression and suddenly smiled. Fengyi, you might find it unbelievable now, but one day, you'll meet such a person. Perhaps, you'll be able to understand how I feel right now. If it was someone else, Xiao Su wouldn't have said these words. However, the person in front of him wasn't someone else. He was also one of the only two close friends he had in his life. The little fellow had said that if there was joy, he should share it. If there was difficulty, he should share it. Only then could he let the people close to him become closer. This was what the little fellow had taught him. Now, he was putting this into action bit by bit. Lin Fengyi was suddenly able to understand the feelings he wanted to share with him from the words he said. He put away his shocked expression, suddenly holding his forehead and sighing heavily. Xiao Su, ever since that enlightened you, I've realized that you've become more and more fond of showing off your affection in front of me. Don't you think this is very unkind to your friends? Lin Fengyi had a headache over this phenomenon. Especially for someone like him who didn't have anyone by his side who cared about him, it was a kind of open and above-board torture. Xiao Su didn't take his friend's complaint seriously. Instead, he had an idea. You're not young anymore. It's time for you to get married. Ling Feng, you and I, there are 3 of us. I'm slightly older than you. Your parents have already passed away. As the saying goes, an elder brother is like a father. If you have someone you like, you can talk to Ayan. She'll help you. In the end, why did it become Qing Yan? The corner of Lin Fengyi's mouth twitched. From what he heard just now, he thought that Xiao Su would help him solve the problem. He didn't expect that Chu Qingyan would jump out in the end. She was indeed a person who didn't play by the rules. Xiao Su said matter-of-factly, as the saying goes, the eldest sister-in-law is like a mother, so, stop. Lin Fengyi felt the headache coming back. Xiao Su, don't forget how old Qingyan is. How much older am I than her? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Don't tell me you don't acknowledge her identity? It's not a question of whether I admit it or not, okay? At the thought of Qingyan's appearance and the fact that the eldest sister-in-law was like a mother, Lin Fengyi suddenly had the misconception that he had made bad friends. Let's talk about this after you 2 get married. Nothing is set in stone yet. Don't put the blame on me first. Lin Fengyi finally found his eloquence as an official. Let's talk about it later. At the mention of this matter, Xiao Su was silent, which was rare. Lin Fengyi saw this and thought that he had poked his sore spot. He couldn't help but ask, speaking of which, Qingyan is already 15. Your marriage should be on the agenda soon, right? Xiao Su was silent for a while. He wanted to directly ignore this question, but his good friend's gaze was fixed on him. Then he slightly averted his gaze. There are still 3 months before her coming-of-age ceremony. You plan to set the date when she comes of age? Lin Fengyi smiled slightly. He had guessed correctly. It was rare to see him shy. Xiao Su didn't deny it. Actually, there's no difference in time. But I want to be serious because this is a matter of a lifetime for me and her. I think it's because you haven't settled little Qingyan yet, so you still need 3 months as a buffer. How can you break the distance between 2 people so quickly and get married immediately? Although he wished him well in his heart, he still spoke the truth as a good friend. Xiao Su's fingers lightly tapped on the table. He looked a little absent-minded. He also knew that he was anxious. He had to give the little fellow some time to get used to the 2 of them being together. However, he was afraid that there wouldn't be enough time. Lin Fengyi also seemed to have thought of something. He slightly restrained the teasing expression on his face. He understood what he was worried about. Yesterday, I also received the news that the 4th prince is leading the army into battle. He's still lacking experience. These days, he's basically losing 9 out of 10 battles. I'm afraid that he won't be able to last through this summer. After Lin Fengyi finished speaking, he saw that his good friend didn't look surprised at all. He knew that he had received the news long ago. He had the most extensive information network in his hands. Xiao Su, if that day really comes, what do you plan to do? At this moment, he was asking this question as a good friend. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. I can't avoid it. You know that I hate hiding the most. Xiao Su suddenly stood up and walked to the window. He gazed into the distance. No one knew what he was thinking. When Lin Fengyi saw this, he also stood up and slowly walked to his side. Then, he followed his line of sight and saw a mountain in the distance with smoke rising in spirals. He smiled slightly and said, thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, magnificent and vast. No one would be unmoved. High up in the sky, enjoying the respect and fear of the world. At the same time, bearing the loneliness of being at the top, Xiao Su said lightly with a mocking tone. Lin Fengyi understood and turned to look at him. An unknown emotion surfaced in his eyes. he said in a neither deep nor shallow tone. Is that why you gave up when you had the chance back then? He didn't specify what it was, but Xiao Su understood tacitly. His gaze had been looking into the distance. Hearing this, his lips curled slightly. Fengyi, I'm different from them. When I need to do my best for the country, I won't hesitate. But if I have to step on bones and stain my hands with blood to reach that position, I can't do it. I'm ruthless, but I'm not heartless. Lin Fengyi turned and leaned against the window. He smiled like a lotus at night. I know, so I'm not surprised. Back then, when you could have become the crown prince, you chose to go to the border. Xiao Su was silent. At that time, it wasn't that he didn't want to be the crown prince, but that he couldn't. Because he could imagine that after he inherited the position of crown prince, his imperial mother would increase the power of the Liang family. At the same time, his imperial father would also increase his efforts to suppress the factions that supported him and weaken the power of the Liang family. Since he could foresee the consequences, why not leave the vortex early? Sometimes, advancing didn't mean winning. Sometimes, retreating was the only way to break out of the situation. Back then, he used 3 years to leave the capital in exchange for the peace of the Liang family and the faction that supported him. That was why many people said that he had wasted his chance. But only he knew what he had truly gained. Bones and blood are things that must be experienced. Unless there's peace in the world, Lin Fengyi said slowly. I understand. So, what if someone puts a knife on Qingyan's neck to force you? As soon as Lin Fengyi finished speaking, Xiao Su's eyes suddenly narrowed. Chapter 759. What if someone uses Qingyan to force you? Lin Fengyi thought that he didn't hear him, so he looked into his eyes and asked again. Because this was not impossible. When Xiao Su and Qingyan first arrived in Jiangnan, although he didn't pay special attention to them, it didn't mean that he didn't know what had happened to Qingyan. Once, Empress Liang had planned to use Qingyan to force her son to submit. Fortunately, Qingyan managed to escape in the end. This matter was reported to him by one of his spies. She's not a weak girl who can't even trust a chicken, so she won't be easily threatened. Xiao Su said in a low voice. But from his tone, it was obvious that he was already considering this possibility. If there is a first, there will be a second. Xiao Su, it is easy to dodge an open spear, but hard to avoid a hidden arrow. Can you guarantee that there will be no accidents? Can you guarantee that you will be able to protect her at all times? Whether it is your father, mother, or your brothers, none of them are easy to get along with. Otherwise, how could you have left the capital and wandered around for 10 years? In the past, you were carefree and unrestrained, doing whatever you wanted. You didn't have to worry about your future at all. But Lin Fengyi's eyes were heavy, and his tone was unusually solemn. Now, Qingyan is your weakness. You are in trouble. As soon as he finished speaking, the room fell silent. An indescribable atmosphere surged between the two of them. Xiao Su's fingers clasped on the wooden board by the window. He exerted a little force, and the red on his fingertips gradually faded to a pale white, just like his emotions at this moment. His good friend naturally had his reasons for saying this. Perhaps he had already sensed that something was wrong, so he specially came today to remind him. I understand. Xiao Su closed his eyes and replied. Lin Fengyi knew that his words were a little harsh. He couldn't help but straighten his body and relax. Xiao Su, do you still remember the agreement between the three of us? I remember. Xiao Su pondered for a moment and then nodded. Although it's not a chaotic world right now, it's just a facade of peace and prosperity. I believe that it won't be long before the situation becomes unstable. I really hope that our agreement can be fulfilled. Xiao Su smiled when he heard this. Since when have you become so sentimental? Lin Fengyi also smiled at him and said rather sadly, ever since Ling Feng had a few children and you showed off your love in front of me every day, I was the only one left. Xiao Su couldn't help but pat him on the shoulder with a smile. What did you say? The two looked at each other and smiled. The sun was slowly approaching noon. Lin Fengyi remembered that he still had a lot of work to do before he left. He straightened his back and lowered his head to adjust the creases on his clothes. After smoothing them out, he spoke to the person in front of him in a serious tone. There's been some progress on the Liu family's salt smuggling. Tell me about it, Xiao Su said with a serious expression. 2 months later, they will have a big business deal. I've already sent people to keep an eye on them. Lend me a few people from your side and try to catch them red-handed on the spot. When it came to serious matters, Lin Fengyi regained his fair and impartial manner. Okay. Xiao Su immediately agreed. Lin Fengyi patted him on the shoulder. I'm going to drag you into this again. I didn't expect them to be so bold. We're in the middle of a chaotic war. I won't stand by and do nothing, Xiao Su said resolutely. Hearing this, Lin Fengyi felt a sense of pity in his heart. He could understand what his good friend meant. When there was chaos on the outside, he had to pacify the people on the inside. He couldn't make any mistakes. Such a hero who cared about the world and the world is going to change. Take care. Lin Fengyi squeezed his shoulder and left after saying this. No matter when, as a friend, I will always stand behind you. No matter if it's a prosperous time or a turbulent time. Xiao Su stood in front of the windowsill and watched his good friend's figure appear in front of him and then disappear on the cobblestone path. He couldn't help but raise his head and look at the blue sky. His good friend was right. Ayan was his Achilles' heel. She was the bottom line that he couldn't touch. But there was one thing. Ayan was his Achilles' heel, but she wasn't a burden. If that was the case, she wouldn't be her anymore. So, what if someone puts a knife on Qingyan and forces you? If such a day really came, he wouldn't be soft-hearted. When he thought of Ayan, his thoughts returned to the word, continuation. Yanheshu? He always knew that the little fellow had him in her heart. After thinking through this point, the depression that had accumulated in his heart slowly dissipated. It was time to see what the little fellow was doing. Xiao Su turned around and went out the door. At this time, Lin Fengyi hadn't left the palace yet. He was standing on the path in the bamboo forest and looking at the lavender garden in front of him. He suddenly remembered that a few days ago, Hua Ling suddenly said that he wanted to get some lavender back to plant. He didn't think that it was anything important, so he waved his hand and had the steward follow him. But when he saw the lavender, he couldn't help but twitch his eyes. It seemed that he had dug up most of his garden. No wonder the steward's expression was strange that day. It was a pity that he was too busy and didn't ask about it. Xiao Su's subordinates were the same as him. They were all a group of bandits. But when he thought about it, he smiled. This was probably the first time that Xiao Su had taken a woman by force. It really was a rare sight. He thought back to the conversation he had with his good friend in the room, and his heart suddenly relaxed. After so many years, Xiao Su would no longer be that patient prince who would retreat step by step. Because there was one more person by his side. Someone once said that the best way for a person to become strong was to have someone they wanted to protect. The strength here wasn't the strength of one's ability, but the firmness of one's mind. The appearance of this little girl, Qingyan, was really good. The Emperor Emeritus had done a good thing. Lin Fengyi felt relaxed and stepped out of the residence. Sir, the prefectural magistrate sent someone over today. He said that he has something to discuss with you. If you have free time, you can come to the residence for a chat. When the subordinate waiting outside saw him come out, he immediately went up to welcome him. Lin Fengyi thought for a moment before saying, "Let's find a restaurant to take care of our lunch first before going." It turned out that it was already lunchtime, but Xiao Su didn't ask him to stay for lunch. He probably wanted to be lovey-dovey with his wife again. TSK, how unkind. Yes. The subordinate acknowledged. He didn't think that there was anything wrong with his master's order. Because their master basically didn't eat at the official's residence and refused to entertain. Sir, do you want to take a carriage? As he spoke, the coachman had already brought the carriage over. Lin Fengyi shook his head. No, the weather is good today. I'll take a walk. At the same time, he could experience the people's mood. The subordinate immediately ordered the carriage to be taken down and followed closely behind his master. Isn't that person a miser? Someone gritted his teeth softly in his heart. Chapter 760. Young master, you didn't see wrongly. That is Master Lin. The blue-clothed servant followed his master's line of sight and nodded after confirming. Let's go and take a look. The jade-green robed youth's eyes rippled with interest. Young master, this isn't very good. You still have to go to the shops in the south to check the accounts. The blue-clothed servant immediately looked at her nervously. Don't worry. Humans are made of iron and rice is made of steel. Let's fill our stomachs first. Seeing Lin Fengyi enter a stall, she immediately walked forward. Seeing this, the blue-clothed servant could only follow. These two people were none other than Hua Xiao's master and servant. Just as Hua Xiao was following them stealthily, Lin Fengyi and his subordinate were already seated in the shop. The stall owner in plain clothes came forward to greet them. What would the two guests like to eat? Because these two people had an extraordinary bearing, especially this man with an outstanding face, the stall owner was even more enthusiastic. 2 bowls of wonton and a tray of vegetable buns. Lin Fengyi's subordinate, Li Hu, immediately said. The stall owner happily agreed. Hua Xiao looked at this plain and ordinary stall and thought that this miser was really stingy. He couldn't even bear to bring his subordinates to eat something good. However, she still secretly sneaked in, wanting to observe him from afar. Unfortunately, this stall was only so big. Moreover, Hua Xiao's iconic men's clothing was basically recognized by everyone in Jiangnan. Therefore, "Oh, young Master Hua, you also came?" Seeing Hua Xiao, the stall owner hurriedly greeted her. Hua Xiao often came here to sit when she had nothing to do, so the stall owner recognized her at a glance. Hua Xiao rolled her eyes. Couldn't this stall owner pretend that he didn't see her? At this time, she felt 2 gazes in front of her. She couldn't help but unwillingly put down the sleeve that was covering her face. After a few coughs, her face changed into a surprised expression of meeting friends from thousands of miles away. What a coincidence! Master Lin is also here. Lin Fengyi sized up the person in front of him and smiled faintly. What a coincidence! As soon as these 2 words came out, Hua Xiao guiltily shifted his gaze. In the past, when the 2 of them met, they would always be at each other's throats. Of course, it was Hua Xiao who took the initiative to declare war. However, at this moment, Hua Xiao had a guilty conscience, which caused his momentum to weaken as soon as he appeared. Therefore, it gave people a feeling that he had given up. Her eyes accidentally caught a glimpse of Lin Fengyi's half-smile. Hua Xiao immediately sensed that something was wrong. No, she couldn't lose before the battle. Lord Lin, do you like the desserts here too? Hua Xiao came over and said with a smile. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. Hua Xiao always used this principle very thoroughly. Miss Hua, do you want to sit with me? It wasn't that Lin Fengyi couldn't tell that he was being followed. He originally wanted to let her go, but when he saw her rolling her eyes, he couldn't help but find it funny, so he took the initiative to invite her. Since Lord Lin has invited me so kindly, then I won't be polite. Hua Xiaoli immediately sat down, as if he was afraid that the other party would go back on his word. Li Hu, who was sitting opposite Hua Xiaoli, stared at him with wide eyes. Clearly, his lord was just being polite. Li Hu, order a few dishes for that little brother and treat him well. Lin Fengyi smiled at Li Hu. Li Hu understood tacitly and stood up to bring Ah Fu to another table. However, Ah Fu didn't dare to disobey. She only turned back to look at her master several times, afraid that she would cause trouble if she wasn't careful. Her cautious and fearful look pleased Lin Fengyi. I didn't expect Lord Lin to be so reasonable. Hua Xiaoli looked at him and chuckled. Lin Fengyi drank his tea and smiled when he heard this. I'm afraid that Miss Hua and this official's conversation later will scare others. Hua Xiaoli's mouth twitched. Was he just mocking her for speaking so harshly? What a miser! When the shop owner heard Hua Xiaoli call him Lord Lin, he couldn't help but move closer to Ah Fu and ask about Lin Fengyi's identity. When he found out that he was the prefectural magistrate, he was shocked at first. Then, he called for his servant and daughter in the inner room to quickly prepare the food. Perhaps it was because so many high officials and nobles had come to the shop today. The simple and honest shop owner felt that their presence had brought light to his humble dwelling. He smiled even more happily and couldn't help but hum a song as he prepared the food. Originally, Hua Xiaoli felt that it was unfair, but when she heard the shop owner's off-key singing, she couldn't help but purse her lips and smile. When Lin Fengyi drank his tea, he saw the peaceful smile on her face. His eyes were slightly dazed, but it was quickly diluted by the steam of the tea. This official is coming here for the first time. Judging from Miss Hua's appearance, you should be a regular customer. Lin Fengyi found a topic to talk about. When Hua Xiaoli heard that he was answering her question, she subconsciously nodded. Then, she took a cup and poured tea for herself. I often pass by here. Their steamed buns are more authentic, and their tofu pudding is also not bad. Most importantly, it's comfortable. Lin Fengyi should be referring to the environment. Lin Fengyi looked around and felt that although the shop was small, it wasn't messy. It was clean and tidy, and it just so happened that he could see Mount Tai in the distance from the window. It made him feel relaxed and happy. Today, he had only walked in casually. Here you are, Lord Lin. Your steamed buns and wontons will be served later. The shop owner brought out a tray of steamed buns. Hua Xiaoli glanced at the steamed buns and sneered, Lord Lin, these are all vegetarian dishes. Vegetarian dishes are good for the body. If you eat too much fish and meat, I'm afraid it's bad for the body. Lin Fengyi looked at her meaningfully. I'm used to eating too much fish and meat. Hua Xiaoli slammed the table. Boss, I want a tray of meat buns and pork and cabbage dumplings. When she finished speaking, she glanced at Lin Fengyi. This lady wants to go against you. Lin Fengyi expressed that he was fine with it. Miss Hua, do you want to try the vegetarian steamed buns? Lin Fengyi asked in a friendly manner out of gentlemanly demeanor. Because she had ordered the steamed buns at the back, she could only watch helplessly as steam rose from the steamed buns. When she heard Lin Fengyi's question, Hua Xiaoli swallowed her saliva and shook her head. I don't eat vegetarian dishes. When the busy shop owner heard this, he turned to look at Hua Xiaoli curiously. He didn't have the foresight to expose her. Young Master Hua, you usually order vegetarian steamed buns when you come here. Aren't you eating them today? Hua Xiaoli was speechless. This shop owner was too honest. Lin Fengyi chuckled. If that's the case, then this official will eat first. Hua Xiaoli covered her face with her sleeve. How embarrassing. She had never lost so much face in front of him before. The taste is indeed not bad. Lin Fengyi picked up a steamed bun with his chopsticks and took a gentle bite. He nodded and praised. After walking for an entire morning, Hua Xiaoli was already hungry. When she heard his words, she felt even hungrier. How infuriating! Wait a minute, wasn't the purpose of her visit just now to teach him a lesson? How could she forget? Then she raised a wicked smile. Lin Fengyi, who had been observing her, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Chapter 761. Hua Xiao clenched her fists under the table. Then, she stood up and leaned in Lin Fengyi's direction. Lin Fengyi didn't know what she was going to do and was on guard. However, at this moment, a faint fragrance drifted into his nose and he was a little absent-minded. At this moment, Hua Xiao didn't notice his abnormality and didn't notice the two of them getting too close. Instead, she spoke as she worked, Official Lin isn't from Jiangnan. Perhaps you don't know that we like to add some seasoning to the buns to make them more delicious. As she spoke, she had already taken the mustard from the table and poured it into the basket. After she finished speaking, the half bottle of mustard was almost empty. Lin Fengyi's gaze moved from her fair and tender-side face to the buns. She really didn't hold back when pouring the mustard. Official Lin, don't be polite with me. Quickly try it, quickly try it. It tastes really good. As soon as Hua Xiao sat down, she immediately tried her best to recommend it and even pushed the steamer in front of him. She was very attentive. Lin Fengyi raised his eyebrows. Didn't anyone tell her that at this moment, she looked like a weasel paying respects to a chicken? However, he didn't know why, but under her bright and expectant eyes, he couldn't think of any words to refuse. Moreover, he seemed to want to see her arrogant expression after she got her way. After trying a mouthful, Lin Fengyi came back to his senses. The impact on his taste wasn't as great as the impact on his thoughts. Hua Xiao was originally waiting for him to choke and lose his poise. However, after waiting for a long time, she only saw him calmly eating the bun one mouthful at a time. Hua Xiao stared at him as if she had seen a ghost. "Miss Hua, the taste is really good. Do you want to try it?" Lin Fengyi saw her staring at him with an amused expression and couldn't help but tease her. Hua Xiao didn't believe that he could eat such a disgusting bun. Could it be that it wasn't mustard? When she heard this, she picked up a pair of chopsticks and put it into her mouth. Lin Fengyi's lips curved into a smile. As soon as it entered her mouth, Hua Xiao's face scrunched up. Who said it was delicious? She saw a ghost. She really wanted to vomit. However, she was the one who had boasted just now. Since he had chosen this path, he had to finish it even if he had to kneel. She swallowed a mouthful with tears in her eyes, and then agreed with him with teary eyes, "Es delicious." After saying that, she immediately threw the bun to the side and decided not to eat it again. She was dying of thirst. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, someone handed him a cup of tea. Hua Xiao immediately took it from Hua Xiao's sleeve and gulped down a few mouthfuls to suppress the spiciness. "Wait, water?" After she finished drinking, she looked at the person in front of her with a guilty conscience. Then she smiled carelessly. Lin Fengyi didn't argue with her. At this time, the wontons were already served, so he didn't pay attention to her anymore because he had something important to deal with later. However, she had gone for wool and come home shorn. How could she take this lying down? Or rather, she could not swallow this mouthful of mustard, even though she had taken the initiative to do so. Just as she was racking her brains to think of a way to get revenge, she caught a glimpse of the young woman next to the counter staring at the person beside her like a love-struck fool. Hua Xiao often came to eat here, so she recognized that this was the restaurant owner's daughter. At this time, the young woman dressed in pink seemed to have made up her mind. She turned and went into the kitchen. After a while, she came out with a bowl and walked directly to their table. "Sir, this is our restaurant's famous sweet tofu. You can try it." Her voice was so soft that it could be squeezed out of it. Her small face was bashful as she secretly glanced at Lin Fengyi. Hua Xiao suddenly felt goosebumps all over her body. She immediately blinked, wanting to see how Lin Fengyi would respond. She saw Lin Fengyi calmly raise his head. His gaze was also very proper, and he didn't look around casually. This one didn't order this sweet tofu. "Miss, did you make a mistake?" When the young woman heard this gentle and mellow voice, two blushes floated up on her cheeks. She lowered her head even more. "This is a gift from this shop to you, sir. You are honest and clean in Jiangnan and uphold justice for the common people. We common people are very grateful to you. This is this official's duty." Lin Fengyi smiled faintly. Hua Xiao saw that the young woman became even more bashful because of his smile. She couldn't help but scorn in her heart. What's the point of smiling so beautifully? However, seeing that Lin Fengyi still wanted to refuse, Hua Xiao immediately reached out to stop Lin Fengyi. Under Lin Fengyi's puzzled expression, Hua Xiao turned to the woman and said, "Miss, thank you for supporting our lord. We will accept this bowl of tofu." A disapproving gaze landed on Hua Xiao. She became even more pleased with herself. She wanted to make you uncomfortable. She wanted to oppose you. The young woman originally wanted to retreat, but when she heard Hua Xiao's words, she immediately agreed. Then she put down the bowl and trotted away. When she stood still, she looked back and smiled shyly at Lin Fengyi. When Hua Xiao saw this scene, she pursed her lips and snickered. Lin Fengyi looked at her indifferently. "When did this official become Miss Hua's sir?" Hua Xiao smelled the displeasure in his words and felt even more delighted. If the enemy was unhappy, she would be happy. This bowl of tofu was specially sent up by a beauty. "Sir, you should be happy to receive her favor." Hua Xiao pretended to be innocent and automatically ignored his question. Lin Fengyi saw the schadenfreude in her eyes. She was watching the show from the side just now. Don't think that he didn't know. So what? She laughed mischievously. "Sir Lin, you don't know, but this tofu beauty is famous on this street. Many people admire her." "So what?" "Tofu beauty isn't easily moved. She's usually cold to people. This is the first time I've seen her so passionate." "So what?" It was this sentence again. Lin Fengyi looked at her indifferently. Hua Xiao choked. She originally wanted to tease him, but she couldn't say anything at this moment. She heard that Lin Fengyi didn't get close to women. Many people guessed that he was gay. She even bet 100 taels that he was gay. Could it be true? Then she would have profited. But after a few days, she was bedridden and couldn't get up. Her whole body was sore and weak. She pointed at a certain person who had eaten his fill and said in a trembling voice, "Who said that you're gay? You're just a fox wearing the skin of a gay. Big bad wolf. Do you feel that losing 100 taels is a big loss?" A certain person leaned over and stole a kiss on her lips, smiling brightly. "What? How did you know that I placed a bet?" Compared to a certain person's sneak attack, this shocked her more. "As long as I want to know, do you think there's any secret that can be hidden from my eyes?" She rolled her eyes. She had almost forgotten his identity. In Jiangnan, who didn't curry favor with him? It was probably because he saw that she had been opposing him, so there must be a long line of people snitching on her. At this moment, a certain person whispered in her ear, "But I'll let you know whether you've lost or gained." "What did you say, ugh? Who would love to be flirted with?" and whispered in a soft voice. Chapter 762. Lin Fengyi finally saw that she had stopped, so he lowered his head and continued to eat the wontons. At this time, the restaurant owner also brought the food that Hua Xiao ordered. The original restaurant owner rubbed the white cloth around his waist and wanted to say a few words, but no matter how bad his eyesight was, he could see that the atmosphere between the two was not right, so he immediately left. Since she had successfully angered Lin Fengyi, Hua Xiao's mission was complete. When she happily prepared to eat, her eyes glanced at the greasy meat dumplings and the meat bun, and she suddenly lost her appetite. She actually did not like eating meat that much. What was called lifting a rock and smashing it on your own foot? That was her situation right now. She held the spoon and stirred, but she had no appetite at all. But she was too embarrassed to order more food. This would be admitting defeat in front of Lin Fengyi. Just as she was feeling conflicted, a bowl of tofu appeared in front of her. She looked up at him in confusion, but only saw Lin Fengyi eating with his head buried in his hair. "Since you made the decision to stay, you can finish it yourself." His tone was very calm. Hua Xiao wanted to stubbornly refuse, but at this time, her stomach was already singing the empty fort stratagem. In the end, she silently brought it over. How could she fight without strength? She would talk about it after she was full. But later, Hua Xiao regretted her decision very much. "Lin Fengyi, didn't you not get close to women? What are you doing?" She softened in his arms and opened her big watery eyes as she gritted her teeth. "Eating tofu." A certain person buried his head in eating. "You're shameless." She pushed him away and said angrily, "Didn't you owe me a bowl of tofu before? I'm just eating it bite by bite." Hua Xiao's face turned red. If she had known earlier, she would not have bent over a bowl of tofu. It turned out that when the cold-faced miser was pure, he was like a vegetarian disciple who kept people 1,000 miles away. But when he seriously ate tofu, even she was afraid. Although Hua Xiao had always been wearing men's clothes and her speech and actions were quite decent, she ate very elegantly. After all, she was from a big merchant in Jiangnan. When Lin Fengyi put down his chopsticks, he glanced at her and then looked away. At this time, the tofu beauty kept sneaking glances at him. Lin Fengyi remembered the words in the flower sleeve, smiled faintly, and then threw it to the back of his mind. Although the person beside her didn't say anything, Hua Xiao could guess that he was waiting for her. She couldn't help but speed up her eating. In the end, she wiped her lips and wanted to say something, but Lin Fengyi had already taken out some money from his sleeve and placed it on the table. "Miss Hua, this official still has important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." With that, he stood up and left his seat. Hua Xiao stared blankly at his departing figure, then turned back to look at the money he put down. It was just right, including the money for the bowl of tofu. When the shop owner came to clear the table, he said with a sigh, "This Lord Lin is really honest. The parents of the people." Hearing this, Hua Xiao became strangely silent. After the two of them left, Ah Fu immediately returned to her master's side. When she heard the shop owner's praise, she subconsciously looked at her master. But strangely, her master, who usually hated to be praised, didn't say a word. Could it be that her master was too full and hadn't reacted yet? "Lord, do you need this subordinate to help you buy some water?" Li Hu followed behind and thought for a moment before finally asking. Lin Fengyi's footsteps paused as he thought of the mustard bun. His throat was still a bit parched. Li Hu sighed in relief and immediately turned to buy water. His lord disliked those strange smells the most, so his diet had always been light. Who knew that he would encounter the Hua family's young master who didn't play by the rules and even plotted against his lord? Just now, he almost thought that his lord was going to turn hostile, but in the end, his lord actually ate the mustard bun. It was simply a shock to him. But as expected of his wise and mighty lord, he was actually able to swallow it. Because of the discomfort in his throat, Lin Fengyi, who was waiting on the street, couldn't help but recall Hua Xiao's shocked expression when he pushed the tofu over. He knew that he wasn't a soft-hearted person, but when he saw her awkward and sullen expression, he subconsciously pushed it over. When he came back to his senses, it was already too late. His mind suddenly flashed with Xiao Su's words today. Is that so? This prince's good friend, who usually doesn't reveal his true feelings, is always gentle and courteous no matter if he is facing evil officials, honest officials, or good citizens. But just a few days ago, he rarely revealed his true nature. The other party is even a young girl. This really makes this prince curious. Could it be that our humble and gentle Lord Lin has changed his personality? His good friend's words made Lin Fengyi suddenly remember that something was wrong with him recently. Logically speaking, he had always treated everyone and everything rationally and rarely did anything out of the ordinary. For example, when he encountered an assassination attempt a few days ago, he didn't show any emotion on his face, but he quietly dealt with the mastermind behind the scenes. Lin Fengyi narrowed his eyes slightly. If he wanted to go far on the path of an official, he had to abandon these emotions that were out of the ordinary. Thinking of this, he put one hand behind his back and his expression was somewhat calm. When Li Hu returned, his footsteps quickly returned to being calm and unhurried. A lifetime of marriage, tied in a lifetime. The red string was messy, but still clear. 1,000 miles of marriage, tied by a single thread. When Lin Fengyi and his servants' silhouettes disappeared into the crowd, a white figure leisurely walked over. 2 golden boys and girls followed her on her left and right. Although they were half a step behind, if one looked carefully, one could see that the 2 of them were protecting the person in front of them. They avoided the passers-by and formed a small protective circle. "Tanning, the place you mentioned before where the Shuexin lipstick appeared was here?" The woman in white walking in front was wearing a bamboo hat. A white veil hung down to cover her face. Her appearance couldn't be seen clearly, but her voice was graceful and languid, like a willow branch slowly stretching its body in the spring sun. Her pure white clothes were embroidered with 1 or 2 jasmine flowers. At a glance, she looked fresh and beautiful. The girl on the left smiled and replied, "Our people said that they saw it here. The information is correct." The woman in white nodded slightly. Then, the sound of pearls and jade colliding could be heard. Under the sunlight, through the thin white veil, it seemed like the blue pearls hidden inside could be seen. "It seems that the little girl back then was in Jiangnan," the woman in white said. The woman in white said. Her voice was very pleasant to the ears, and the listeners could almost imagine the faint smile on her face. "Should be. After all, our people have searched for so long and didn't see the lipstick again. I'm afraid only she has this thing," the boy on the right continued. "I hope this trip to Jiangnan won't disappoint me." The woman in white's voice was very faint. Soon, the 3 figures disappeared into the crowd. Chapter 763. Time flew by. Half a month had passed since Yan Luo and the others left for Lianqing. Chu Qingyan had also been lying in bed for half a month. She felt as if grass was growing on her head. However, it wasn't easy for a broken bone to heal so quickly. After all, it would take 100 days to heal a broken bone. 100 days, 100 days. Therefore, under Ethereal's repeated orders and Xiao Su's exhortations, she could only lie in bed like this. Fortunately, her parents and little troublemaker often came to talk to her. Oh, and there was also a Tsundra gerfalcon. At this time, Bai Yutong and the others were staring at the gerfalcon. However, the gerfalcon didn't seem to care about them at all. Instead, it looked at little troublemaker warily. Little troublemaker lay next to Chu Qingyan's hand and looked very docile. However, it looked at the gerfalcon with a hostile gaze. Chu Qingyan was holding a book and watching the scene in front of her. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When she laughed inadvertently, the gerfalcon immediately rolled its eyes. It slowly walked to the bedside like the king of Buddha Mountain and paid a routine visit. After it was done, it walked to the soft couch at the side and sat on it with difficulty. Then, it continued to look at little annoyance with hostility. Chu Qingyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry every time she saw its posture. However, she had to admit that the gerfalcon's recovery ability was very strong. It could survive such a serious injury and escape last time. After it came back, it lay in the house for a few days and started to run around again. For example, it came to report to her every day. Kai, Daddy is here for an animal convention. His voice reached her before he even arrived. Chu Qingyan could imagine her father walking in with a kitten in his left hand and a kitten in his right hand. Sure enough, Chu Machen's father walked in like an adorable kid. However, before the gerfalcon's gaze could reach them, the two kittens screamed and struggled to jump away. Her father only had time to look back and see the kittens disappear. Then, he said to his daughter in disappointment, "Flower 1 and Flower 2 are so timid." As soon as he finished speaking, gerfalcon, glutinous rice ball, and the others sneered. In front of the Wolf King and Eagle King, it would be strange if they didn't piss their pants. Chu Qingyan held her forehead and said with a headache, "Father, there are hawks and wolves in the room. It would be strange if Hua Hua and the others weren't afraid. Don't bring them in again, or they won't play with you." Mr. Chu nodded, then walked in and explained, "Daddy, I just want them to coexist peacefully and play together." Who knew that Floey 1 and Floey 2 were so afraid of Little Hai and Little Annoyance? Chu Qingyan shrugged. It can't be helped. The law of survival in the animal kingdom is that the strong and the weak are always different. Little Annoying, Glutinous Rice Ball, and the others, you're dreaming if you want the Wolf King clan to play with the cats. Gerfalcon, foolish humans. Chu Qingyan's gaze fell on Glutinous Rice Ball and the others who were playing with a small ball of string in the room. She still found it hard to believe. If Big Ice Cube hadn't told her that these were snow wolves, she would have thought that they were just ordinary dogs. She wouldn't have guessed that they had such a noble background. Snow wolves were cruel and arrogant by nature. This was the explanation she had read in ancient books. However, these few were rolling on the ground and playing with the string. What the hell was with them? This simply made her eyes pop out of their sockets. However, Chu Qingyan didn't know that these few were only like this in front of her. If they were in front of outsiders, they would be different. Therefore, in the quiet afternoon, Mr. Chu played around with the few animals. She read a book. Little Annoyance glared at gerfalcon, and gerfalcon glared at Little Annoyance. Glutinous Rice Ball and the others were jumping around and playing. Sometimes, Chu Qingyan thought that this was the most peaceful time of her life. However, there were some people who were destined to live their lives in the midst of bloody battles. Sometimes, peace and tranquility were just a smokescreen before the storm. When Xiao Su walked into the room, he saw the big lanterns and small lanterns sitting, lying, or rolling around in his Ion's room as usual. His face instantly turned ugly. Little Annoyance and the others smelled Xiao Su's scent, and their snowy fur stood on end. Gerfalcon narrowed its eyes and glared at him. Another bad guy who was trying to steal their master. As soon as Xiao Su stepped through the door, Bai Yutong and Glutinous Rice Ball gave up on the little fur ball, howled, and pounced on Xiao Su. Xiao Su leaned to the side, dodging Bai Yutong's attack. He raised his foot and aimed at Glutinous Rice Ball. Bai Yutong fell to the ground, turned around, and jumped up, while Glutinous Rice Ball quickly changed its direction and jumped up with the help of his boot. This was the moment Xiao Su had been waiting for. He quickly reached out with both hands and accurately grabbed their necks. Bai Yutong and Glutinous Rice Ball didn't expect to be subdued in one move again. They kicked the four furiously, howling and whimpering. Xiao Su didn't even frown. He turned around and threw them out of the door. The two flipped in the air and landed on the limestone floor. They turned around and howled at Xiao Su, but there was nothing they could do. After all, he was stronger than them. Little Annoyance straightened its back, looked at Xiao Su with its noble blue eyes, and slowly walked out of the door. Snowflake Cake, on the other hand, skipped toward its brothers. After Little Annoyance and the others left, Xiao Su's gaze fell on Gerfalcon. Gerfalcon felt the threatening gaze and couldn't help but lower its head to look at its wings. It hadn't recovered yet, so it had to endure it first. A wise man submits to circumstances. Gerfalcon jumped off the soft couch and walked slowly. When it passed by Xiao Su, it rolled its eyes at him for free. When Gerfalcon was far away, Chu Qingyan finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. This had already become her daily joke. Father Chu had already gone out to play. Xining closed the door, leaving only Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su in the room. When he heard the little girl's laughter, Xiao Su raised his eyebrows slightly. Is it that funny? Chu Qingyan immediately shut her mouth, but her wide grin betrayed her. Xiao Su walked toward her step by step. He was already a little depressed from being disturbed, and now she was making fun of him. Xiao Su felt that it was time to punish her. So when the black shadow attacked, Chu Qingyan looked up belatedly. Her chin was already in a certain someone's fingers, and then her red lips were captured. Finally she fell. This position was very suitable for hugging and kissing, and the effect was especially good. In the end, Chu Qingyan could only bury her head in his chest and gasp for breath. Xiao Su's lips curved into a satisfied smile. He knew that she was thin-skinned, so he didn't tease her anymore. At this time, there was a knock on the door. What is it? Xiao Su said indifferently. Master, the Hua family sent a message saying that something has happened at Hibiscus Pavilion. Hua Ling's voice came from outside the door. Although he knew that his master disliked being disturbed when he was alone with the young princess, this was an urgent matter, so he couldn't care less. What? Chu Qingyan was shocked. Chapter 764. Something happened at Hibiscus Pavilion? Chu Qingyan subconsciously looked towards Xiao Su, but the latter gave her the same confused look. Xiao Su held her hand and said in a deep voice, "Don't panic, let's see what's going on first." Hearing his words, Chu Qingyan calmed down and nodded slightly. Xiao Su turned towards the door and said, "Let the messenger come in." Very soon, a blue-clothed manservant followed Hua Ling in, his expression very anxious. "Ah Fu, what happened?" Chu Qingyan recognized this person as the servant who always followed Hua Xiao and asked immediately. Ah Fu did not dare to delay and anxiously said as soon as he saw them, "Young Master Chu, someone came to the shop this morning and said that there's a problem with our products, causing someone in their family to have an allergic reaction and almost disfigured. Now, they're causing trouble at our door and are refusing to leave. They've attracted a lot of commoners, and it looks like the situation is getting worse." Chu Qingyan frowned. How could this be? Our products don't have any problems at all. They don't contain any chemicals and the ingredients are all natural. It can be used on any skin type. This servant doesn't know either. When this happened, my family's young master happened to be discussing business with someone and couldn't leave. He sent this servant to the shop to find out what happened. Young master said that if the shopkeeper couldn't solve it, he should come and find you. This servant saw that the shop was completely surrounded and the people causing trouble were very big. This servant didn't dare to delay and immediately came to find you, Ah Fu said anxiously. Chu Qingyan did not panic and asked a few questions in detail. Although Ah Fu looked anxious, he answered all of them. So, they refused to let us find a doctor for them? Chu Qingyan grasped the key point. Yes, because they were accompanied by a famous doctor in the city. That doctor said that the woman had an allergic reaction after using our continuation product. Her head was swollen like a pig's head, and it was incurable now. Therefore, with that doctor around, the shopkeeper couldn't find another doctor because no one in the city had better medical skills than that doctor. As a result, many customers directly stopped buying, and some even prepared to return the goods. Young Master Chu, if this goes on, it will greatly affect the reputation of our products. Fu said in detail. This matter was very serious. As long as this crime was confirmed, the continuation product would be thrown into a quagmire. It would be impossible to make a comeback. Xiao Su listened from the side. After understanding the ins and outs of the matter, he faintly had an answer in his heart. He could not help but frown slightly. However, the little fellow was discussing with others, so it was not convenient for him to speak. Fire spirit, where is Ethereal? After pondering for a moment, Chu Qingyan immediately turned to look at Hualing. Hualing replied, Ethereal has been researching medicine in the pharmacy for the past 2 days, so he should still be there at this time. Alright Hualing, bring Fu to find Ethereal. Have Ethereal make a trip to the Hibiscus Pavilion and personally treat that customer. I don't feel at ease with that doctor. Chu Qingyan felt that there was something fishy going on here. Hualing knew that this matter was urgent, so he did not delay and left with Fu. Xiao Huan and the others were not here and sleeves were tied up. There was no one in the Hibiscus Pavilion that could take charge of the situation. Chu Qingyan felt her head hurt when she thought about it. She placed her hands on the sides and prepared to get up. But when she moved, a pair of hands pressed down on her and a disapproving voice sounded from above her head. Your body hasn't recovered yet, so you can't move around. Could it be that you want to lie in bed for the rest of your life? In Xiao Su's eyes, there was nothing more important than her health. Chu Qingyan was discouraged. Then what do we do? If this matter isn't resolved, there will be a lot of problems in the future. My efforts will be ruined. She felt very frustrated. This feeling of not being able to move and not being able to ask for help was very uncomfortable. She had worked so hard to build up her brand, but was it going to be destroyed by someone like this? She was very unwilling. The fire hasn't even reached your eyebrows and you're already panicking? Xiao Su shook his head and reminded her. She knew that she was being too agitated, but at this time, how could she calm her heart down? Big Ice Cube, I don't want to, but I'm too worried. She pursed her lips and revealed a distressed expression. At this time, she found a very important problem. It was that there were very few people by her side that she could use. Xining's personality was not strong enough. She could deal with the matters in the house, but when it came to urgent matters, she was still lacking. Xiao Huan had been sent out by her and Jean Xian's duties were not here. Su Yi and the others were also the same. At this time, other than being anxious and angry, what else could she do? Xiao Su knew that she was anxious and reached out his hand to pat her little head. This matter didn't come out earlier or later, but appeared when you guys were at the peak of your power and no one was around. Think about it carefully, don't you think it's strange? Xiao Su deliberately lowered his voice at this time, like the murmuring of flowing water. It carried a sense of peace and slowly drove away her anxiety. Chu Qingyan seriously thought about his words. I also felt that it was strange just now. Could it be that someone wants to suppress us? That's possible. Xiao Su nodded. I was injured and wasn't around. I sent Xiao Huan away. Coincidentally, Xiao Si was discussing business and then the matter happened. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and her gaze darkened. It's really a coincidence that it happened when no one was in charge. Xiao Su nodded again. The little fellow had not fainted from anxiety and her thoughts were still very clear. So you're saying that Xiao Si might have been deliberately delayed by someone, so that she wouldn't be able to deal with it? Chu Qingyan's eyes flashed. If this is a trap, then it's probably the case. Chu Qingyan immediately called out, Su, this subordinate is here. Su Yi, who was guarding outside, immediately walked in. Bring some people to find Xiao Si right now. No matter what she's doing or who's holding her back, bring her to Hibiscus Pavilion. It's urgent. Yes. Su Yi accepted the order and quickly walked out. After Su Yi left, Chu Qingyan leaned on Xiao Su's body, feeling a little tired. Because she had lost too much blood in the past few days, coupled with the recent special period, she often felt weak all over. This time, let's take a gamble and see if someone is plotting against us behind our backs. Xiao Su rubbed her head. Seeing her haggard expression, he felt a little heartache. If Xiao Si can make it in time, It'll be best if she can deal with it successfully. If she can't, then we can only blame ourselves for being unlucky. I hope it's not a trap set up by someone. If I find out that someone is playing tricks behind our backs, I definitely won't let them off. Chu Qingyan said coldly. Although she was a merchant and could not avoid some despicable methods, she disdained this kind of framing the most. There's no need to be polite to this kind of person. Xiao Su hugged her in his arms, his tone exactly the same. Chu Qingyan nodded. If Xiao Si is really being held back by something, then I've let her down. But I don't regret it. At most, I'll just go back and apologize to her and make amends. At this time, she couldn't move, so she could only make things difficult for Xiao Si. She hoped that her efforts would not be in vain. Chapter 765. Although she felt sleepy and Xiao Su tried to persuade her a few times, Chu Qingyan still insisted on waiting for the news. However, she let him go first. She knew that he still had a lot of things to deal with and didn't want to delay him. 2 hours later, the person who came back was not Su Er and the others who came to inquire about the news, but Hua Xiaoli. As soon as she saw Hua Xiaoli, Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up. She straightened up and immediately asked, "How is it?" Hua Xiaoli sat down on a chair and fanned herself with her sleeves. She gasped for air and said, "Let me drink some water first. I'm so thirsty." Xining served her tea at the right time. After Hua Xiaoli took a big gulp, she relaxed her tone. She wiped the sweat on her forehead and looked at Chu Qingyan, who had a worried expression. "I knew you would be anxious, so I rushed over. I was afraid that the servants wouldn't be able to explain it clearly and make you worry for nothing." Although Hua Xiaoli was sweating profusely, she didn't look sad at all. Chu Qingyan was slightly relieved and let her take a breath. "There's no hurry. Take your time." Hua Xiaoli nodded. At this time, she began to explain what happened today. "I know that Afu came to you today to ask for help, but he hasn't been to Hibiscus Pavilion recently, so he doesn't know what happened in Hibiscus Pavilion recently. Let me analyze it. Today, there was a woman who brought her family to the shop and made a scene. She said that our products contain toxins that are harmful to the human body, causing her to be poisoned and allergic. There was also the testimony of a famous doctor in the city, as if to prove that we are guilty of murder for money. Moreover, they chose the busiest time of the day to come, attracting countless onlookers who didn't know the truth. The matter suddenly became big. However, the shop checked the purchase record and found that she bought it half a month ago. If she was allergic, she would have been allergic long ago. It wouldn't have been delayed until now. Things are fishy. I originally planned to go to Hibiscus Pavilion today, but suddenly, a guest came to our house and said that he wanted to discuss business with us. I was asked to stay by my father. Coincidentally, when the incident happened, I was pestered by the guest and could not get away. I could only let Afu go first. Fortunately, you sent Ethereal to treat her, but the woman was guilty and refused to let Ethereal feel her pulse. Later, when you sent someone to tell me the seriousness of the situation, I immediately rushed over. This is obviously a well-designed scam. I said I didn't treat her and sent people to ask Afu to treat her. That family had no choice but to let Ethereal treat her. I have to say that your people are really skilled. That woman was poisoned because she ate a mutually reinforcing food. Once the medicine was applied, it immediately took effect. Speaking of this, Hua Xiao let out a long sigh. She said to Chu Qingyan, "Actually, this kind of thing is not uncommon in my business. But often, this kind of method can easily destroy a shop. If we didn't stop it in time today, I'm afraid that if it worsened, the consequences would be unimaginable." Hearing that the crisis was resolved, Chu Qingyan's heart, which was in the air, calmed down a little. "What happened in the end? I sent people to send them to the officials. This is obviously a frame-up. But they ran away halfway." Hua Xiao said angrily, "Qing, you don't know. The person who said that he wanted to do business with my family simply appeared out of thin air. Our Hua family has been in business for many years, and no one has dared to go against us so blatantly. Hearing what you said, it really feels like someone is plotting. Then, did you find any clues?" Chu Qingyan's expression became serious. Before I could investigate, those people ran away when they saw that the situation was not good. But I already have a suspect. Hua Xiao clenched her fist and said angrily. The Qin family. Didn't the Qin family send people to buy a lot of our products before? At that time, we even discussed that he might want to research the ingredients and make it himself. Maybe he couldn't research it later, so he came up with this kind of despicable method to destroy us. If he can't get something, no one else can. I heard him say this before. And once the continuation products appear, the Chen family's business will be hit the hardest. So, I dare to conclude that it's his dirty trick. The more Hua Xiao said, the angrier she became. She drank another mouthful of water to suppress her anger. Chu Qingyan heard her and thought for a moment. Xiaoli, we don't have any evidence now. Let's not jump to conclusions. Hua Xiaoli took a deep breath and nodded. We can send people to pay close attention to the Qin family's movements. Also, we can secretly investigate the whereabouts of that family and that businessman. If we can follow the clues to find the person behind the scenes, then it will be even better. Chu Qingyan said in a deep voice. Qingyan, what you said is very reasonable. Let's follow your method. If it were me, I would fight the Qin family to get justice. Xiaoli, you are too impulsive. You have more business experience than me. Why are you so impulsive? Hua Xiaoli touched her head and was a little ashamed. Actually, it's fine usually. It's just that I can't control my temper when it comes to the Qin family. Why? Could it be that you have some other relationship with the Qin family besides your rivalry with them? Chu Qingyan asked curiously. Chu Qingyan just asked casually, but Hua Xiaoli nodded seriously. It can be said that we have a deep hatred. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. This is? Hua Xiao shook her head and looked disgusted. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Anyway, we are irreconcilable with them. Chu Qingyan knew that this might involve the secrets of the two families, so she didn't ask any more questions. Let's not talk about this matter. You are injured and should recuperate. Don't worry. I'll transfer an experienced manager from another shop to help you. We'll talk about it when Yanluo and the others come back. Hua Xiaoli tidied her hair and found that her clothes were wrinkled because she had rushed all the way, so she tidied up as she spoke. This proposal solved Chu Qingyan's urgent problem, so she readily agreed. That's right, I have something to tell you. Hua Xiaoli suddenly smiled and winked mysteriously at Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan's eyes curved into crescents. Let's hear it. At this moment, in a splendid palace thousands of li away, faint incense smoke was rising in spirals. The entire palace hall was filled with a refreshing fragrance. However, the main seat of the palace hall was surrounded by a dense atmosphere that made people afraid to breathe. You're saying that Su-er has been bewitched by that vixen? The speaker's posture was graceful and elegant, but his tone was very harsh. This subordinate doesn't dare to say. However, His Highness has clearly refused to return to the capital. The guard kneeling on the ground lowered his head. Empress Liang gave a cold humph. Don't think that this consort doesn't know that he's protecting that vixen, Chu Qingyan, just because this consort is in the capital and far away from the emperor. For her sake, he even dared to go against this consort in public. He wasn't even willing to send troops when he requested. In the past, he wouldn't have disobeyed this consort's orders. Your Imperial Highness, please don't be angry. If you get angry, others will be pleased. Luo Yun handed over a cup of tea. That's right. Otherwise, I'll let consort you have it easy. Empress Liang took a deep breath to suppress her anger, then took the teacup. Your Imperial Highness, if you want to deal with Chu Qingyan, this servant has an idea. Luo Yun bowed slightly. Tell me about it. Empress Liang raised her brows as a light flashed through her eyes. Chapter 766. Looking at Hua Xiao's expression, Chu Qingyan was also interested. What's the matter? Tell me. I've been confined to this room recently, and I'm about to get sick. After Chu Qingyan finished speaking, she asked Xining to bring over a small table and prepare some pastries and tea so that the two of them could chat. Hua Xiao didn't keep her guessing and said directly, Do you remember Miss Hua Yu? How can I not remember? Miss Hua Yu's beauty is unforgettable, and she's a rare talented woman. Chu Qingyan didn't understand why she mentioned this person, but she still seriously thought about it before replying with a smile. Hua Xiao chuckled. What I want to say is related to Miss Hua Yu. She helped us do a lot of publicity. I took the time to treat her to a meal a few days ago to thank her. At the dinner, she learned that you were injured, so she wanted to come and visit you immediately. I said that it was inconvenient for you to meet guests because of your injury, and I would bring her to visit you another day. Chu Qingyan didn't think it was inappropriate. Don't forget your identity. If she comes and sees that you're a girl, won't she be exposed? Hua Xiao reminded her when she saw that she didn't understand. You're right. You're so considerate. Chu Qingyan agreed. Hua Xiao chuckled again, but I promised to bring her to visit you tomorrow. Chu Qingyan twitched her mouth. Can't you finish your words at once? I didn't know she would be so persistent. If she hadn't asked someone to send me an invitation 2 days ago and mentioned this matter, I would have almost forgotten about it. Hua Xiao's face said that she didn't blame her. Chu Qingyan face-bombed. There were 2 things about Lady Hua Yu that left the deepest impression on her. One was her guqin, and the other was the sachet embroidered with multicolored butterflies that she had asked her servants to deliver. The most important thing was not the sachet, but that when she sent it, her vinegar jar bumped into her, causing her to suffer a double loss. Forget it. You can bring her over tomorrow. She has good intentions. I can't reject the concern of others. She didn't have a problem with Miss Hua Yu, but she was afraid that she would make Big Ice Cube unhappy again. Big Ice Cube looked like he didn't care about anything, but as long as it involved the people or things around him, he would be very calculative. Hua Xiao chuckled. Qingyan, let me give you a heads up. Hua Yu seems to be planning to turn over a new leaf. Your performance at the Ming Man building back then seemed to have made her treat you differently. Don't say, oh, she's still a girl. If word of this gets out, it won't be good for her reputation. Chu Qingyan glared at her. Hua Yu is bold and won't care about these things. Also, I'm only telling you because I want you to be careful, Hua Yu said as she bit into the plum blossom cake. Chu Qingyan had a headache. I know. Even food can't stop you from talking. Eat slowly. I know you like these things, so I prepared a lot of xining. Hua Xiao nodded in satisfaction. Then she asked, by the way, when I came in just now, I think I saw something fly out of your room? What a big lump. Chu Qingyan's smile froze. Xiao Hai was in the room just now. When she heard the noise, she immediately asked it to go out. She didn't expect it to be discovered. You must have seen wrongly. It was probably the shadow of the tree outside the window. Hua Xiaoli rubbed his eyes, pretending to be serious. Maybe I'm really too busy. I also remembered something. I found that the guards around you seem to be trained. They're different from the usual bodyguards. What's your background? When she said the last sentence, Hua Xiao's tone became serious. She was smiling, but there was a deep inquiry in her eyes. Chu Qingyan felt the change in her tone and smiled faintly. What kind of background could I have? Hua Xiao rubbed her eyes again and smiled. If you don't want to say, then forget it. Who doesn't have a secret? Well, I have to clean up the other mess. I'll gladly accept this cake. After saying that, she got up and left. Chu Qingyan asked Xining to send her off. Seeing Hua Xiao's figure disappear outside the door, Chu Qingyan breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, the gerfalcon, who was hiding under the window, reluctantly got up. It flapped its wings and jumped in. Its face was very unhappy. It was a majestic king. How could it be so shameful? Perhaps because they had been together for a long time, Chu Qingyan and the gerfalcon had a strange connection. She could feel its thoughts and couldn't help but smile. Although Hua Xiao was a wealthy merchant, she was still a commoner. There were many things that she couldn't let her know. However, Chu Qingyan had to admit that Hua Xiao was very sharp. She could sense that her identity wasn't what it appeared to be. However, although Hua Xiao was a partner and they could talk well, she couldn't reveal her identity yet. This was an eventful period. It was better to be cautious. Chu Qingyan waved at the gerfalcon. It walked over unhappily. Chu Qingyan smiled and stroked its head. What do you want to eat today? Dried meat or shrimp? The gerfalcon's eyes lit up. Chaoyang Palace. Luo Yun looked around and smiled. Your Majesty, 9th Miss Chu was betrothed to His Highness by the retired emperor. Although she was young at the time, 5 years have passed. His Highness is now 20 years old. It's time for him to have children. Continue. Empress Liang narrowed her eyes. Although 9th Miss Chu is already 15 years old, she's not of marriageable age yet. His Majesty also hasn't put His Highness's marriage on the agenda yet. It's likely that the wedding date is still up for discussion. However, men of His Highness's age should already have children. To think that His Highness has put in so much effort for the country and the people, yet he's still all alone. This servant's heart aches for His Highness every time this servant thinks about it. Luo Yun picked up a handkerchief to wipe the corners of her eyes. Empress Liang understood the meaning behind her words and comforted her. This consort is also very worried about his marriage and children. In the past, people said that he was a jinx and was a jinx to his wife. He's ruined many marriages. But 9th Miss Chu has been perfectly fine ever since the imperial edict was issued, so this servant feels that His Highness has already broken this destiny. Luo Yun's voice was filled with joy. When Empress Liang heard this, she felt that these words touched the bottom of her heart. She couldn't help but smile. You're right. How can Chu Qingyan take care of Su-er all by herself? It's better to choose a few women for Su-er who are considerate so that His Majesty can hold an imperial grandchild sooner. However, this consort is in a difficult position. When Luo Yun saw this, she smiled and said, Your Majesty, I heard that there are quite a few young ladies in the Liang family who have reached the age of marriage. Does Imperial Uncle have any plans? Empress Liang understood tacitly and patted her hand. A shrewd light flashed through her eyes. As expected of someone who has followed this consort for so many years. You're the only one who knows how to untie this consort's knot in her heart. Luo Yun bowed. It's this servant's duty to share master's burdens. Good, very good. Chapter 767. The next day. The weather was good and the sun was shining brightly. Chu Qingyan narrowed her eyes as she looked outside the window. Then she said casually, Big Ice Cube, you don't have to stay in the room with me every day. I heard that the peach blossoms in Jiangnan are more beautiful than those in the capital. You can take Hua Ling and the others out for a walk. Xiao Su, who was sitting at the side and reading documents, didn't even raise his head. He said, The peach blossoms all look the same. What's there to see? So emotionless. Chu Qingyan secretly complained in her heart. But she didn't give up. Even if you don't want to see the peach blossoms, you can still try the delicacies. Yesterday, I heard from the servants that there's a tofu pudding shop on North Street that's very delicious. If you get someone to buy it, it won't taste good when it gets cold. Take Turin and the others out to try it. Otherwise, people will say that you're an emotionless master. Xiao Su's hand paused. He raised his head to look at her. You mean that they told you that I'm emotionless? Chu Qingyan quickly waved her hands. No, they didn't say that. Then you think that I'm emotionless? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Chu Qingyan immediately shook her head. She rolled her eyes as she thought of a reason. Of course not. I just think that it's boring for them to be cooped up in the house all day. When we were training, we were in seclusion in the valley for half a year to a year. They didn't dare to say that it was boring. Xiao Su retracted his gaze and continued to focus on the documents in his hands. Chu Qingyan saw that he was indifferent and felt a little anxious. In another 2 hours, Hua Xiao would bring Hua Yu over. If Big Ice Cube saw Hua Yu, she didn't know what he would think. She wasn't afraid that Big Ice Cube wouldn't give Hua Yu face. She was afraid that after Hua Yu left, she would be the one in a miserable state. Although Hua Yu was a woman, when she thought about how he made her unable to resist in the alley, she felt her scalp tighten. More importantly, she didn't want Big Ice Cube to worry about these people who didn't want to do it. So she had to send Big Ice Cube away before Hua Yu arrived. Thus, she continued to work hard. Big Ice Cube, actually, I feel that Huoling and Turin have been by your side for so many years and have always been cautious and conscientious. Sometimes you have to reward them. Although you usually reward them a lot, sometimes you have to show some concern, right? Huoling, Turin, please forgive me. This is the only way I can think of right now. Xiao Su thought about it and felt that what the little fellow said was quite reasonable. Then I'll give them a day off today. Chu Qingyan's eyes widened. This was not the result she wanted. What about you? I have something important to do. Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva. It was over. She didn't know what to say. At that moment, she heard the sound of him flipping through the pages, and he said something unhurriedly. They're not you, so why should this prince play with them? Chu Qingyan automatically translated it in her heart. What it meant was, the person I want to play with is you, they can play by themselves. To be honest, when Chu Qingyan heard this, she was truly moved. She also sighed with emotion. Big Ice Cube's ability to speak words of love was increasing day by day. What made her even happier was that he didn't feel like he was speaking words of love at all. This kind of feeling was too sweet. It's rare to have a chance like this. Let's admire the flowers, eat some good food, and relax. Although she was moved, she still stood her ground. She couldn't be bewitched by the enemy. Xiao Su felt that if he didn't solve this matter, she would talk for an entire day. He simply put down the document and placed his hands on the table, calmly looking at her. Chu Qingyan didn't know why he was looking at her with such a serious expression. She felt a little apprehensive, so she touched and pinched here and there, but she didn't dare to look at him directly. Actually, she felt a little guilty. Xiao Su coughed lightly before saying, "What I want to see and eat is the same if it's not someone I care about by my side. Do you think that I would make a special trip just because I want to eat a bowl of food or see a flower?" Chu Qingyan didn't know how to react. "When you're better, I'll bring you to see and eat whatever you want to eat. Right now, I feel that the most relaxed thing is having you by my side, so don't let your imagination run wild." After Xiao Su said this, his gaze fell deeply on her body, then he looked away. The subtext was, "What I want to do the most right now is to quietly stay with you." Chu Qingyan felt that she had inadvertently received a serious confession from the Big Ice Cube. How unexpected! She was so pleasantly surprised. "Big Ice Cube, come here." Xiao Su didn't suspect anything. He got up and walked to the front of the couch. He reached out and touched her hand to make sure that she wasn't cold. He then wanted to ask if she wanted to drink some water, but she hugged him. Chu Qingyan hugged his waist, overjoyed. "Big Ice Cube, I like you so much. I like you so much." Xiao Su was stunned by her sudden confession. He hadn't expected it at all. But when he came back to his senses, he had already bent down and stared at her moist eyes. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly. "What did you say just now?" "Say it again." Just now, she had said it on a whim and couldn't suppress her excitement. Now that the Big Ice Cube was looking into her eyes so seriously, Chu Qingyan felt a wave of heat rush from her neck to her cheeks, all the way to the top of her head. She immediately wanted to bury herself in his arms like an ostrich. Unfortunately, it was rare to hear such an undisguised confession from her. How could Xiao Su let it go so easily? He touched her face with his fingertips. Her white and tender cheeks were stained with a red blush. It was very tempting. He slowly lowered his head, wanting to take the pink territory for himself. Just as he was about to touch the gorgeous peach blossoms, a loud shout broke the pink bubble that had just emerged from the two of them. "Chu Qingyan, I've brought Miss Hua Yu here." Although the footsteps were still far away, this loud voice, Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva subconsciously. "Oh no, he's here." Xiao Su paused. The deep affection in his eyes suddenly disappeared. He looked at her playfully. "Just now, you tried to make me go out. Was it because of this?" Chu Qingyan did not dare to underestimate her Big Ice Block's intelligence at all. With just one sentence, he had already pieced together most of what she had just said. She felt like burying her head into a crack in the ground. He didn't need her answer. He knew the answer just by looking at her expression. Xiao Su snorted, then bent down and gently bit her lips. Oh, before she could exclaim, he had already stood up. It's just a small punishment. I'll deal with you when I come back. Xiao Su glanced at the men's clothes she was wearing today. No wonder. He tidied up his clothes and turned to leave. Where are you going? Didn't you want me to go out? Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva. She didn't care about the burning pain on her lips. Looking at his back, she felt a sense of annoyance. Chapter 768. Chu Qingyan, why do you look like you're half dead? Because Hua Xiao often came to visit, the servants did not stop her. She walked in casually. Chu Qingyan did not want to pay attention to her at all, but when she saw the person behind her, she forced herself to stay alert. Didn't you say you'll be here in 2 hours? Why are you so fast? She was not prepared at all, and her thoughts were exposed. Thinking of the look in Big Ice Cube's eyes before he left, she could not help but shiver. She hoped that he would be merciful when the time came. Hua Xiao looked at the person behind him and said with a smile, Miss Hua, you came to my mansion early. I can't let her wait, so I came here directly. At this point, Hua Xiao moved closer to her and whispered into her ear, Did something happen? I saw that your husband's face was very gloomy just now. Especially towards Hua Yu. He looked very unfriendly. Hua Yu, who was ignored by the two of them as soon as she came in, coughed softly when she saw Hua Xiao so close to Chu Qingyan. A strange look flashed across her eyes. Chu Qingyan glared at her, then looked at Hua Yu, who was standing in the room in a pretty pink dress. She smiled gently. Miss Hua Yu, I'm sorry to have made you come all the way here. Hua Yu walked forward with a charming smile on her face. Young Master Chu, you're too polite. Ever since we met last time, Hua Yu has a lot of admiration and respect for young Master Chu. I've always wanted to find time to discuss the zither with young Master. Unfortunately, young Master is too busy. Later on, I heard that young Master was injured. Hua Yu's gentle words contained sincere concern, making Chu Qingyan blush with shame at her previous thoughts, especially when Big Ice Cube was jealous of this innocent woman. I've made you worry, Chu Qingyan said gratefully. At this moment, Hua Yu raised her hand, and Huang Yi behind her came forward with a food box. She opened the lid and took the porcelain cup inside. Then, she looked at Chu Qingyan and said gently, I heard from Hua Xiao that there are no women in your residence, only maids, so Hua Yu took the initiative to make ginseng soup for young Master. I hope young Master won't refuse. Chu Qingyan subconsciously looked at Hua Xiao, who was standing behind Hua Yu and waving her hand innocently. There are no women in your residence, only men. But she did not ask about the men. I'm just telling the truth. Chu Qingyan was completely defeated by her. How could Hua Yu, who had been in such places for a long time, not see Chu Qingyan's troubled expression? She stepped forward and stuffed the porcelain cup into Chu Qingyan's hands. Don't stand on ceremony with Hua Yu. Drink it while it's hot, or it will turn cold. Chu Qingyan could not accept such a passionate Hua Yu. Wasn't she supposed to be as arrogant as a winter plum? How did things change so quickly? At this moment, Hua Yu turned to Hua Xiao and said, Xiao, I have something to discuss with young Master. Can you leave for a while? Hua Xiao's heart softened when she saw Hua Yu's pleading eyes. She immediately nodded. Have a good chat. After she finished speaking, she gave Chu Qingyan a look that said, good luck with women, and good luck to you. Then she pulled Xining and left happily. Chu Qingyan's head hurt. She really wanted to see the world burn. At this time, Yellow Leaf also took the initiative to leave the room, so only the two of them were left. Miss Hua Yu, what do you want to discuss with me? I'm afraid it's not appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone in a room, Chu Qingyan said tactfully. Hua Yu covered her mouth with a handkerchief and smiled. Hua Yu is not afraid. What are you afraid of? Chu Qingyan swallowed. She was afraid. Hua Yu could see her uneasiness and smiled. Young Master, Hua Yu recently composed a song. I want to embarrass myself in front of young Master. Would young Master do me the honor? I'm in luck. Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief. As long as you don't get too close, you can play the zither as much as you want. Hua Yu smiled and nodded. Then she turned around and took the zither that Huang Yi put down. She walked to a short table and put it down. Then she tested the sound. She gave Chu Qingyan a sweet smile, then lowered her head and played the zither. The elegant sound of the zither flowed out and filled the entire room. Chu Qingyan listened attentively. Hua Yu looked up and saw her exquisite side profile. Her face blushed slightly. Then she lowered her head again and played seriously. The song ended. Miss Hua Yu's zither skills have reached the level of a master. Your voice can be heard for 3 days. Chu Qingyan praised from the bottom of her heart. Hua Yu was shy. Young master, you flatter me. After that, she put away the zither. Did young master hear anything from the zither? Hua Yu walked closer and looked at the person lying on the bed with anticipation. Chu Qingyan did not doubt her. She pondered for a moment before replying, I heard hope and a beautiful vision for the future. Compared to the previous song, the style is completely different. At this point, she looked at Hua Yu and said gently, your mentality has changed. I'm happy for you. Hua Yu's eyes lit up. She pinched her handkerchief and said excitedly, young master, do you know why Hua Yu has changed? Because of you, young master. Hua Yu looked straight into her eyes and said word by word. Chu Qingyan had a bad feeling. Hua Yu nodded firmly. Then she said shyly, although Hua Yu has been in Ming Man Pavilion for many years, I've never met someone like young master who can understand Hua Yu's zither music. A long time ago, Hua Yu already had the capital to redeem herself. There were also people who wanted to redeem Hua Yu, but Hua Yu didn't want to. Because they weren't Hua Yu's good people. They liked Hua Yu's appearance, but how long could this happiness last? And Hua Yu was a weak woman, so she didn't dare to live alone outside. So, Hua Yu had been waiting for the fated person to appear. At this point, Hua Yu looked up at her with a burning gaze. Later, the heavens didn't let down those who worked hard. Finally, young master appeared. When Hua Yu saw young master for the first time, Hua Yu knew that you were Hua Yu's good person. Hearing this, Chu Qingyan couldn't even hold the porcelain cup in her hand. Heavens, was this a confession? A confession from a girl? Chu Qingyan was crying in her heart. It was over, she was in big trouble. Young master, do you dislike Hua Yu? Although Hua Yu has been in the brothel for many years, Hua Yu has never served anyone with her beauty. I'm still pure, Hua Yu said worriedly, her tone careful. Hua Yu, do you want me to redeem you and find a good place for you? Chu Qingyan tried to persuade her. No, Hua Yu wants to stay by young master's side and serve young master for the rest of my life. Hua Yu lowered her head. Her tone was shy, and her expression was pleasant. But at this moment, Chu Qingyan was crying in her heart. Chapter 769. At this moment, on a small road in Jiangnan, Huoling, Turin, and the others followed behind their master and looked at each other. They couldn't understand why their master was suddenly in the mood to come out and play. Logically speaking, their master would only act like a normal person when the little princess consort was present. Now that he was acting so strangely, they were a bit confused. Huoling was an impatient person and couldn't help but ask, Master, where are we going? Ian said that the peach blossoms in Jiangnan have bloomed. This prince will take you to see them, Xiao Su replied indifferently. Huoling swallowed and exchanged glances with Turin. There was really something wrong with their master today. But when they arrived at the peach blossom forest, Xiao Su picked 2 peach blossoms and prepared to leave. Turin asked in surprise, Master, aren't we going to admire the flowers? Do you think it's more interesting to look at the sword manual or admire the flowers? Xiao Su asked indifferently. Of course it's the sword manual. Then why did you bring us here? Even the smart Turin couldn't understand his master's meaning. Xiao Su glanced at the peach blossoms. Do you have any objections to this prince's orders? Turin and Huoling immediately shook their heads. The group walked quickly to the tofu pudding stall. Dear customers, what flavor do you want? When the old woman saw so many people, she was shocked. But when she saw that they were only looking at her tofu pudding, she immediately beamed and asked enthusiastically, What flavors do you have? Xiao Su didn't expect tofu pudding to have different flavors and was a bit depressed. We have sweet, salty, slightly spicy. Before the old woman finished speaking, Xiao Su directly said, 1 bowl of each. After the old woman finished packing, Xiao Su had someone carry it and turned to leave. Huoling and Turin stared at the tofu pudding in their hands, dumbfounded. Several question marks floated above their heads. He said he would bring them to eat delicious food. This master was lying. Xiao Su, who was walking in front, breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he got what the little fellow liked to see and eat. He could go home now. There was an important guest in Chaoyang Palace today. Third brother, try this new spring tea. Empress Liang called out. Liang Bai took the tea from the palace maid and thanked her. He took a sip and was pleasantly surprised. These tea leaves were brought back from the neighboring country a few days ago, right? They taste really good. Empress Liang nodded. The emperor rewarded Chaoyang Palace. Third brother came at the right time today. Hearing this, Liang Bai said, it seems that His Majesty still cares a lot about the empress. When Empress Liang heard this, her expression changed slightly. If His Majesty only rewarded Chaoyang Palace, then Ben Gong likes to hear third brother's words. However, His Majesty rewarded consort Yu no less than Chaoyang Palace. Hearing Empress Liang's complaints, Liang Bai didn't dare to say more and just drank more tea. Empress Liang knew her third brother's personality. He was greedy for life and afraid of death. He didn't even dare to respond to her words. He was probably afraid it would spread and implicate her. She was a bit displeased inside, but she still had a faint smile on her face. Third brother, do you know why Ben Gong called you here today? This subject doesn't know. Empress, please tell me. Liang Bai quickly put down the teacup and sat upright. Empress Liang saw his respectful attitude and felt a bit better inside. Then she looked at Luo Yun beside her. Luo Yun understood and walked forward. Brother-in-law of the 3 kingdoms, it's like this. Empress wants to pick a few people to serve His Highness. She wants to ask if brother-in-law of the 3 kingdoms has any suitable candidates. When Luo Yun finished speaking, cold sweat appeared on Liang Bai's forehead. He could hear that the Empress wanted to pick people from the Liang family. However, she didn't say it and wanted him to recommend them himself. But how could he say it? Seeing Liang Bai's reaction, Empress Liang's expression became slightly ugly. Third brother, do you have an opinion? Could it be that Su is some kind of wolf and isn't worthy of our Liang family's girls? Hearing our Liang family, Liang Bai knew that the Empress had made up her mind to pick people from the Liang family. He panicked inside. Empress, eldest highness status is noble. It's the girls who aren't worthy of eldest highness. It's good that you can think this way. Empress Liang looked coldly at him. Liang Bai discreetly wiped his cold sweat and then asked, I wonder who your highness the Empress has taken a fancy to? Empress Liang held a teacup in one hand and the lid of the teacup in the other. She tapped the lid again and again. At this time, the hall was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Liang Bai felt that he could hear his own heartbeat at this moment. That crisp sound seemed to be on his heart and his nerves instantly tensed up. After the pressure, Empress Liang finally put down the teacup in satisfaction. She folded her hands on her knees and said faintly, Is Jing Yatu and Bing Yatu turning 15 this year and the other turning 16? Liang Bai's face paled when he heard this. Jing Yatu and Bing Yatu were both his daughters. Empress, you can't. What do you mean? Empress Liang said with narrowed eyes. Liang Bai knew that he should not disobey, but this concerned the marriage of his 2 daughters. Liang Bai could only take the risk of offending her and say, Jie, the girls that were previously betrothed to eldest highness all mysteriously died. Didi doesn't want my daughters. This third D did not respectfully call her empress and called himself Didi. It seemed that she had really pushed him to the edge. Empress Liang exhaled softly and then looked at him. Third D, the past is the past. Look at Chu Qingyan now. Isn't she living well? If there is trouble, Chu Qingyan will be the first. And don't worry, Jie will ensure that the 2 girls are safe. But Liang Bai felt that Chu Qingyan had a tough life, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Empress Liang's expression softened slightly. She said profoundly, Third D, Su, will eventually reach a high position. Are you going to let the Liang family miss such a good opportunity for a marriage alliance for the sake of your two daughters? Seeing that he was still hesitating, Empress Liang continued, Xiao Ran will definitely suffer a crushing defeat this time. When the time comes, the imperial court will inevitably invite Su to fight. When he returns victorious, we have to work harder. The position of crown prince will be Su sooner or later. Liang Bai nodded, but he still had doubts. What Empress says makes sense. But isn't His Highness not attracted to women? How many girls in the Liang family are still of marriageable age? Although the great cause was important, he also had to consider his daughters. Empress Liang coldly sneered at him for being so short-sighted. Just because he wasn't attracted to women in the past doesn't mean that he still is now. Su has been bewitched by Chu Qingyan recently and doesn't even listen to this consort, so this consort has to teach Chu Qingyan a lesson. Also, why do you think this consort sought you out? How can a legitimate daughter be the same as a concubine's daughter? When the time comes and this consort takes the throne, this consort will get rid of Chu Qingyan and the position of empress will be empty. Do you think it's better to directly be promoted or to choose someone else? Liang Bai came to a realization. If it was a concubine's daughter, there would be no chance of her becoming empress. Jiejia wanted to help the Liang family continue to be in charge of the harem. Bing Yatu and Jing Yatu are very suitable. Their personalities are gentle and virtuous. I think His Highness will like them, Liang Bai said attentively. Empress Liang nodded. It's good that you can think it through. Then when will older sister tell His Highness about this? Liang Bai asked anxiously. There's no need to say anything. Have the two girls go directly to Jiangnan tomorrow. Chapter 770. Empress Liang's decision surprised Liang Bai. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but speak his mind. Your Highness, we all know His Highness's personality. If we rashly send people over, this official is worried that he won't pay attention to Jing and Bing. The word, pay attention, was still polite. In the past, he had often thrown out the women sent by the officials to curry favor with him. It would be harder than ascending to the heavens to have him take pity on them. When he thought of his delicate daughter, Liang Bai couldn't help but sweat. He dares. Empress Liang angrily slammed the table. Liang Bai was instantly silenced. Seeing that Liang Bai had been frightened, Empress Liang sighed. You don't need to worry. Today, this one will send a few mamas to give the two girls some pointers. Chu Qingyan will be by Su's side. Su has probably already tasted the taste of love and has become enlightened. When the time comes with these two water spirit girls, he won't have any reason to refuse. Liang Bai felt that it was reasonable and nodded repeatedly. Since there was nothing else, he left the palace. When only Empress Liang and her servants were left in the hall, Luo Yun gave a thumbs up and praised, the Empress truly has a good plan. The two misses are pure and clean, so they'll definitely be able to enter His Highness's eyes. Moreover, the mamas will send will probably be able to suppress Chu Qingyan's arrogance. When the time comes, His Highness will lose interest in her. Wouldn't it be easy to get rid of her? It's still you who understands this consort. Aside from Chu Qingyan, when the time comes, if the Liang family's girls are pregnant, whether it's Su leading the troops on an expedition or returning victorious, they'll be able to help the Liang family rise. When it comes to this consort's generation, the Liang family will definitely continue. Her phoenix eyes narrowed as a cold light flashed. It was already lunchtime. When Xiao Su stepped into the room, he saw the little fellow in a daze. He's gone? Hearing his voice, Chu Qingyan immediately collected her emotions and blinked as she looked towards him. He's back so soon? Fast? Don't tell me you want me to wander around outside? Xiao Su stood in front of her with his hands behind his back, his tone threatening. Chu Qingyan immediately changed the topic, not looking at him. What are you holding in your hand? Why are you carrying it behind your back? Xiao Su knew her temperament. He smiled and took out the things hidden behind his back. A peach blossom and a large pile of tofu pudding. Chu Qingyan was pleasantly surprised. I picked it for you when I was looking at the peach blossoms. This is for you. It's still warm. Eat it while it's hot. Xiao Su glanced at the untouched ginseng soup on the table and gave her a cold look. Before he entered the house, he had already asked Xining about Huayu. He basically knew that Huayu had come with Huayu in her sleeves. She wanted to bribe his little girl with a bowl of ginseng soup? How could she compare to his years of captivity? She was overestimating herself. Chu Qingyan first took the pink peach blossom branch and happily touched the petals on it. After playing with it, she reluctantly put it to the side. She hadn't gone out to play in a long time. She missed the flowers and trees outside too much. Then she looked at the 4 or 5 small boxes on the table and was a bit stunned. So many? I only need one. Saying this, she picked a flavor and opened it. The steam rose and the fragrance filled the air, making her want to eat. At this time, Xiao Su called Hualing over and had him take the remaining 4 boxes to distribute to his brothers. Hualing wanted to beat his chest and stamp his feet when he heard this. So His Highness had taken them out for a walk for the little princess. Knowing the truth, they wanted to cry. Drinking a mouthful of the hot soup, Chu Qingyan's eyes instantly lit up. It's delicious. Big ice cube, have a bite too. Saying this, she didn't even think as she scooped a spoonful and handed it over. Xiao Su obediently lowered his head and took it. When the other side finished eating, Chu Qingyan finally remembered a certain person's serious misophobia. She had eaten that spoon before. Xiao Su seemed to have seen through her thoughts. He used his finger to wipe the stain at the corner of her mouth and suddenly said, "Didn't I eat your saliva this morning?" When he said this, his finger carelessly brushed over her lips. Chu Qingyan's face instantly turned red, because she remembered that bite from this morning. What saliva? Can you not say that, big ice cube? Chu Qingyan was ashamed and angry. Ever since she said it, Big Ice Cube had turned into a black-bellied wolf. Paired with this face that angered both men and gods, it made people unable to control themselves. She began to miss the cold and noble Big Ice Cube when they first met. She really wasn't possessed by a love-struck fool. Xiao Su looked at the tofu pudding in her bowl seriously. In the end, Chu Qingyan could only let go of the conflict in her heart and scooped another spoonful for him. She remembered that Big Ice Cube never liked to use other people's help to do things, such as food and clothing. But just now, she understood what he was hinting at with his eyes. Hence, at this moment, he and she finished this bowl of tofu pudding one mouthful at a time. After eating, Xiao Su patted her head and said, "This is just to fill your stomach. I'll specially instruct the kitchen to cook your favorite radish for the main meal later." Chu Qingyan's hand trembled. "This is clearly your favorite radish for me to eat." Time passed quickly, just like the sand on one's fingertips, slipping through the gaps between one's fingers little by little. During this period of time, Chu Qingyan continued to lie on the bed and mold. When she had nothing to do, she would draw and draw. She would write down her business methods and philosophy and then send it to Hua Xiao for her to put into action. After the poisoning and allergy farce last time, Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiao increased their efforts to integrate the sales channels. They tried their best not to give people a chance to take advantage of them, so the continuation of the product led a stable life for a period of time. They also opened up the market in Jiangnan and attracted people from other regions to buy from them. But because the quantity was limited, the supply from Lianqing had not arrived yet. They still carried out hunger marketing, but the results were unexpected. Although she couldn't go out, Chu Qingyan had a new entertainment project. She watched Shanghai and the glutinous rice balls fight every day, watched Big Ice Cube get jealous of them, and occasionally watched her father play happily with them. 2 months passed just like that. Chu Qingyan calculated the time. Yen Luo and the others would return with the products in 2 days. She had almost recovered and could go to the docks to welcome them when the time came. She was a little excited at the thought of it. On this day, Hua Xiao hurriedly entered the door. Chu Qingyan was doing stretching exercises to strengthen her muscles and bones. When she saw her, she couldn't help but smile. "It's so early in the morning. What's wrong?" "Qingyan, something bad has happened." "What happened?" Chu Qingyan closed her legs and put away her hands. She looked at her with a puzzled expression. A lot of soldiers suddenly stationed at the docks today. They want to check the ships coming in and out. What does this have to do with us? You don't know. Once a ship docks at the docks, it will be stopped by the soldiers. They won't let it go until 7 or 8 days later. Our ship will arrive tomorrow. If it's stopped, we won't be able to meet the delivery date that we've calculated. We won't be able to deliver the goods that we ordered previously. We'll have to pay for the breach of contract. Chapter 771. Chu Qingyan was stunned, but she quickly understood what Hua Xiaoli meant. The continuation products were selling very well, but there were too few of them and the supply could not meet the demand. Therefore, she proposed a pre-order plan and informed the customer to pick up the goods. There was a rough delivery time in the agreement because they had calculated the time the cargo ship would arrive in Jiangnan and informed the customer. However, if the ship was detained this time, they would not be able to deliver the goods on time. It would be a breach of contract and cause them to suffer losses. Chu Qingyan was starting to get impatient as well. Why are there suddenly soldiers searching the area? What happened? Hua Xiaoli shook her head in annoyance. I'm not sure. The news just spread today. If it weren't for the storm a few days ago, Yan Luo and the others would have arrived today. This is a little tricky. Chu Qingyan frowned. We can only wait for the ship to arrive and see what's going on. Hua Xiao nodded, but she didn't think so in her heart. She had seen Lin Fengyi's iron fist many times. To be able to send troops unexpectedly, something big must have happened. Since that was the case, once the ship arrived, they would go through the normal procedure. They wouldn't give anyone face at all. Even if you were a king or a member of the royal family, he would treat you all the same. However, she could not tell Qingyan about this matter, as it would make her worry for no reason. Don't worry, I'll go out and find out what's going on. Chu Qingyan wanted to go with her, but she declined. The reason was that Hua Xiaoli did not dare to kidnap her. Otherwise, she would suffer the revenge of her iceberg. Chu Qingyan's face instantly darkened. After Hua Xiaoli left, Xining came in to report that Miss Hua Yu had come to visit. Chu Qingyan face-bombed. Hua Yu was really persistent. Since she had tactfully rejected her last time, Hua Yu had pretended to be sad and left. While she was blaming herself for hurting a girl's heart, Hua Yu began to visit her every 2 to 3 days. Every time, she would bring supplements, self-made clothes, and other things. Every time on the surface, she had to insist on using all kinds of methods to decline, turn around, and appease the jealous person behind her. As a result, whenever she heard the words flower moon, she would feel goosebumps all over her body. I won't see him. Just tell him I'm going out. Chu Qingyan quickly changed her clothes, tied up her long hair, and turned to leave. Xining hurriedly caught up with him. Master, Miss Hua Yu is coming here. You will meet her. Chu Qingyan gave her a handsome look. Who said I was going to go through the front door? Jinexent, climb over the wall and follow me. Xining watched as her handsome master rolled up his sleeves and slipped away over the wall. People say that even if you die under a peony, you'll still be a romantic ghost, but Master avoids her like a fierce tiger. Xining shook her head and then happily ran towards the woman who was coming from afar. She had to block this fierce tiger for her master. After Hua Xiaoli walked out of the house, she thought for a while and turned to walk towards the Lin mansion. She missed Hua Yu who was coming from the other side. When she arrived at the entrance of the Lin mansion, the guards saw her and did not stop her. Miss Hua, please wait for a moment. I will report your arrival. Because Hua Xiao had cleaned up her cousin's mess, she had barged into the Lin mansion many times. Even the guards outside recognized her. Every time they saw her, she could make their strict and selfless master speechless. This made the guards have a whole new level of respect for her. Therefore, as long as she came to the Lin mansion, the guards would help her to report. Basically, their master would meet her every time. Hua Xiaoli nodded and thanked them. She knew that it was very important to build a good relationship with these guards, so she started to chat with them. She wanted to get some information about the ship from them. Unfortunately, she did not get anything. It was obvious that this operation was very secretive. Not long after, the guard who reported her came out. Miss Hua, master said that he is not free today. Please come another day. Hearing this, she knew that he was busy. However, Hua Xiaoli did not want to waste a trip. She wanted to barge in. Anyway, she was familiar with the Lin mansion. The guard at the side seemed to have seen through her thoughts and quickly stopped her. Miss Hua, master is very busy these days. Please don't cause trouble. But I have something important to do. Hua Xiaoli was a little anxious. Another guard thought for a while and said, Master is going out later. Miss Hua can wait for him here. Hua Xiaoli was surprised. Sure enough, after a while, Lin Fengyi came out with a few officials beside him. Hua Xiaoli's eyes lit up and she immediately went to greet them. Lin Fengyi was talking to the officials beside him. When he saw Hua Xiaoli's figure, he stopped and gave a few instructions to let the officials come out. He stayed where he was. Master Lin. Hua Xiaoli smiled and called out. This was the so-called one does not hit a smiling person. Hearing this, Lin Fengyi knew that it was not a good thing. He said calmly, What is it? Hua Xiaoli heard his tone and despised him in his heart. In any case, they were people who had eaten together several times, okay? So cold. I have something to ask of you. She simply went straight to the point. Lin Fengyi glanced at her. Your cousin committed a crime again? Hua Xiaoli shook her head. It's not about him. It's about the ship being detained today. When she mentioned this, Lin Fengyi's gaze became serious. Speak. Hua Xiaoli observed his expression and said, Our cargo ship may arrive at the dock the day after tomorrow. I want you to make an exception and let it go, okay? Lin Fengyi refused righteously. No, everything has to be done according to the rules. What? Hua Xiao exploded in anger. So unreasonable. I have something urgent to do. I'll leave first. He did not have time to waste with her and wanted to leave. Before she could finish speaking, the person in question wanted to leave. How could she let him go? Without thinking, she grabbed his arm. You can't do this. This concerns our supply and reputation. After speaking, Hua Xiaoli was afraid that he would shake her off and immediately went forward to hug his arm. Lin Fengyi did not have time to react before she hugged him tightly. This was the first time he had been so close to a woman. Even though he had bumped into her when he was eating outside in the past 2 months, and they had often shared a table to eat, he had never been so close to her. Although he didn't dislike this feeling in public, he couldn't help but pull his hand out of her embrace. What are you doing? Hearing his cold snort, Hua Xiaoli's face stiffened. Then she felt sad and indignant. She thought that they could build a friendly relationship after calling each other brothers. Who knew that he would change his attitude so quickly? Seeing that she did not speak and looked hurt, Lin Fengyi was stunned. He then looked at the officials waiting in front and said, Wait for me to come back. Who would wait for you to come back? Hua Xiaoli wanted to bite him to death. Chapter 772. Chu Qingyan climbed over the wall, not knowing where she was going. But after being cooped up for several days, she was finally able to come out and breathe the outside air. For Chu Qingyan, where she was going was no longer important. Jean Exon, let's walk around. Saying this, she casually chose a direction and started walking. Although Jean Exion's injuries were more serious than his master's, his body was still stronger than hers. After recuperating for half a month, he was already able to walk and was full of energy. Hearing his master's words, Jean Exion expressed that he had no objection, but he still remembered to remind her. Master, although His Highness is not in the mansion, but before he left, he said that you must return home before it gets dark. Chu Qingyan had just taken a step when she almost sprained her ankle. This stinky ice cube, every time he could guess her thoughts, even when she was going out today, there was really no one else like him. I know. She was not a child. He was so strict. Although they felt that His Highness was very strict with their master, but even the subordinates could feel His Highness's deep affection for their master. In the past, they were somewhat afraid of His Highness, but now they understood that as long as they did not go against him and did not hurt their master, His Highness was not difficult to get along with. Of course, the premise was that they were the people by their master's side, otherwise His Highness would not put them in his eyes. The so-called love me, love my dog. Therefore, His Highness would also pay more attention to them. For example, when he was injured some time ago, His Highness ordered Ethereal to prepare a lot of good tonics for him to eat. Jean Xen looked at his master who was leisurely strolling in front of him and smiled slightly. He did not regret following Chu Qingyan. The memories that were gradually recovering in his mind were forcibly suppressed by him. Jean Xen, do you think this pearl hair clip is beautiful? If you like it, you can also pick a few. Chu Qingyan walked in front of a vendor and picked up some small ornaments. Jean Xen did not study this kind of thing, as long as you like it. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes at him. Why are you so stupid? I'm asking you to pick out some men for Xining. Jean Xen was puzzled. Why should I buy accessories for Xining? Chu Qingyan shook her head. Forget it, forget it. You two can develop on your own. I won't interfere. After saying that, Chu Qingyan lowered her head and began to choose in high spirits. Jin Xin frowned, and his gaze fell on the colorful beaded flowers on the stall. When he saw a pink flower-like hairpin, he couldn't help but think of Xining's appearance of baring fangs and brandishing claws, and his heart moved slightly. Chu Qingyan was distracted by him. When she saw him raise his hand to pick up a red hairpin, she secretly laughed in her heart. After visiting a few stalls, Chu Qingyan decided to go to the docks. She was worried about what Hua Xiao said today. So when she brought Jean Xen to the docks, there was a sudden commotion in front of them. At this time, two figures, one blue and one green, squeezed through the crowd. They were protecting a woman wearing a white bamboo hat and wearing a jasmine flower pattern. They suddenly rushed over. The three people's footsteps were very fast. Jean Xen prevented them from bumping into his mistress and immediately protected her behind him. The two of them retreated to the side of the road. Chu Qingyan raised her head behind Jean Xen. Coincidentally, the wind lifted the white veil, revealing a pair of smiling eyes like spring water. At that moment, Chu Qingyan seemed to see something in those eyes, but she couldn't tell for a moment. The two people looked at each other in the air and brushed past each other. AI, how do these people walk? The passers-by who were knocked around couldn't help but grumble. At this time, another group of people wearing black clothes quickly rushed over and knocked away the passers-by who had just stood firm. In this short moment, Chu Qingyan's eyes had already lost sight of the three people. Chu Qingyan stroked her chest, looking a little absent-minded. Mistress, are you all right? After the disturbance passed, Jean Xen turned around and saw his mistress's absent-minded appearance. He immediately asked worriedly. Chu Qingyan came back to her senses and waved her hand. I'm fine. I just felt that the person just now gave me a strange feeling. Jean Xen was slightly relieved when he heard this. He then said, just now, one of the three people was seriously injured and the other one's breathing was not stable. I reckon that he also suffered internal injuries. The group of people who chased after them just now were not weak and looked like they were well trained. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. Just now, her attention was on the woman in white and she didn't notice this. She inexplicably didn't want the woman in white to be injured. After the two of them walked for a distance, Chu Qingyan's mind was filled with that pair of watery eyes and she couldn't help but stop. Mistress? Jean Xen looked at her in confusion. Chu Qingyan turned to look at him. Jean Xen, I want to send someone to investigate. Are you talking about those three people? Jean Xen wasn't surprised. Chu Qingyan nodded. Just as she was about to call for Su Yi and the others to appear, her ears twitched and her lips curled slightly. It seems that she didn't need to send people to look for them. She turned around and looked at the people below the wall. She couldn't help but smile. How are the three of you? Under the white wall, the woman in white stood facing the wind. Beside her was a pair of golden boy and jade girl supporting each other. Your Excellency's martial arts are profound. I didn't expect you to find out so quickly. The voice was elegant, but with a lazy charm. At this moment of life and death, Chu Qingyan didn't feel any panic or fear from her voice. Although she was surprised, she was more curious. Didn't you leave from East Street? Why did you appear here? They were clearly in two completely different directions. After asking, Chu Qingyan faintly had an uncertain answer in her heart. To seek protection. The woman in white couldn't help but smile. Protection? She had never seen a person who could be so frank when asking for help. At this moment, Chu Qingyan was speechless. Although she had taken the initiative to help, but when it came from the person in question, Chu Qingyan felt a little strange. Just now when I hurriedly took a glance on the street, I felt that young master should be a kind and charitable person. You're not someone who would leave someone in the lurch. So with the mentality of giving it a try, I turned back when those thieves weren't paying attention. Aren't you worried that I'll stand by and do nothing? Chu Qingyan was shocked by her casual thoughts. Could it be that she hadn't read her fortune? The woman in white took in her expression and a trace of a smile flashed across her eyes. Young master, then are you willing to lend a helping hand or stand by and do nothing? You've already said all the good things, what else can I do? And even if I don't want to help, it's too late. They're here. As soon as she finished speaking, the fierce-looking man dressed in black appeared in the crowd. He quickly discovered the traces of their group and quickly approached them. Chu Qingyan face-bombed. Could it be that she had just recovered from her injuries and now she had to fight to practice her skills? Then in the future, would Big Ice Cube still let her out? Chapter 773. Because this was a main road, those people quickly closed in and Chu Qingyan and the rest were forced to retreat into a nearby alley. Although this alley wasn't small, the houses were dilapidated and desolate. It looked like it had been abandoned for a long time and there weren't many people coming in and out. This place was very suitable for a group fight. The leading effeminate man walked out from behind the crowd. He didn't even look at Chu Qingyan and his gaze landed on the white-robed woman. His disdain was evident in his words. Everyone says that the sect master is extremely intelligent and daunting. It's a pity that you've fallen into my hands today. Looks like you're just SO. I'll give you a chance to live. Don't be so stubborn. Your two bodyguards are already seriously injured and a wise man submits to circumstances. The moment he finished speaking, Shan Guang stood out. Don't even think of getting us to hand over the sect master unless you step over my dead body. Just as he finished speaking, Shan Guang spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Qingyan glanced at him and saw that he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Tan Ying supported Shan Guang and looked at the effeminate man with grief and indignation. The sect master has treated your Yang clan well, but who would have thought that you would rebel? We were blind back then. Water flows downwards and people walk upwards. We, the Yang clan, merely made the right choice. The effeminate man sneered coldly, not taking them seriously at all. Shan Guang, Tan Ying, you don't have to argue with people whose mouths can't spit out ivory. If they could understand, they wouldn't be called dogs. No, to categorize them as dogs is an insult to dogs. The white-robed woman retorted casually. Chu Qingyan chuckled. This woman's words were a little interesting. The effeminate man's face turned green and white. Because he was still a little afraid of the sect master's remaining power, when he heard Chu Qingyan's laughter, he turned his anger onto her. Where did this brat come from? Go where it's cool and don't be a hindrance here. Perhaps it was because he saw that Chu Qingyan only had one bodyguard by her side. Her clothes weren't luxurious and her expression was gentle and kind. The effeminate man thought that she was a soft persimmon and picked her to pinch. Unfortunately, this person was a wolf in sheep's clothing. His eyesight wasn't good, so he mistook the tiger for a rabbit and chose the wrong person. Chu Qingyan chuckled. I'll stay wherever I want. Besides, I think it's cooler here. Or you live by the sea? What a busybody. Just now, as a bystander, he overheard the conversation between the few of them and was able to piece together a rough idea of what was going on. It was nothing more than the betrayal of the subordinates, and now, they were chasing after the original owner of the body. Hearing Chu Qingyan's answer, the woman in white looked at Chu Qingyan in surprise, a thoughtful look on her face. You stinking brat, refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? The feminine man's anger surged. All right, don't be long-winded, let's fight. Chu Qingyan waved her hand indifferently, not wanting to pay attention to him. The feminine man did not expect her to take the initiative to provoke him. He was so angry that he laughed and teased his companions. There are only 2 of them, and they dare to clamor at our Yangjung. They must be tired of living. Are you saying? Before he could finish speaking, 7 or 8 men in ordinary clothes appeared behind Chu Qingyan. Although they were wearing ordinary clothes, their bodies were filled with an aura that made people tremble. The white-clothed woman shook her head. A group of idiots. I'm sorry, there are only a few of us, so we've made a fool of ourselves. But I don't know if you'll be able to laugh later. Chu Qingyan shrugged her shoulders. The feminine man's face was very ugly. Although the other side had fewer people than them, their aura was a head above theirs. He could not hold it in any longer. Teach them a lesson for me. Su Yi and the others were already itching for a fight when they were provoking their master. At this time, they could not hold it in any longer. When they heard their master's order, they went up to meet them. In an instant, the weapons clashed and the sword flashed. The situation was undoubtedly one-sided. The battle strength of the Jiangnan fierce cavalry could completely crush them. Chu Qingyan stood to the side and nodded in satisfaction. Since the last time the Jiangnan fierce cavalry took the initiative to stay by her side, she let Su Yi go to Shuba to be her shadow guard. She also knew that they had not fought for a long time, so she let them out to practice. The feminine man did not expect that they were just used as targets for Chu Qingyan's practice. The white-clothed woman on the side looked at the chaotic battle and narrowed her eyes. Although Yang Zhedong was not her direct disciple, his martial arts were not weak in lawn manner. But now, he was being easily suppressed. She would be lying if she said she was not shocked. When she passed by Chu Qingyan, she could feel that this person's martial arts were not weak. She also had a shadow guard by her side. She just came to try her luck and asked for help. She did not expect this person to be so strong. Master, Sichuan is really a place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Even in Jiangnan, there is such a strong person. Tan Ying supported Shan Guang and her eyes did not leave the battle in front of her. The person beside the young master was actually not inferior to Lan Manor's #1 guard. This is really surprising. The white-clothed woman nodded lightly. Just as the 2 of them were talking, a group of people suddenly came. The person in the lead had a zombie face. This group of people seemed to be more aggressive than the feminine man's group. The battle was about to end, but now it seemed that it would not end so quickly. Chu Qingyan rubbed her fingers. She wanted to go up personally. Recently, she had not stretched her muscles and bones, so her hands were itchy. Before going up, Chu Qingyan turned to look at the white-clothed woman who was watching the battle. She was speechless. This was clearly caused by her, but now she was an outsider. She could not help but ask, "Do you want to join me?" The white-clothed woman shook her head and spread out her hands. "I will cheer for you." Chu Qingyan choked. Wasn't he a little too thick-skinned? Because of Chu Qingyan's participation, the other side lost again. The feminine man and the zombie-faced man looked at each other. They planned to negotiate with Chu Qingyan. The zombie-faced man took the initiative to stop and then said to Chu Qingyan, "This little brother, this has nothing to do with you. We will not argue with you. We will let you go." Chu Qingyan looked at them in surprise. Have you ever heard of the loser pressuring the winner to negotiate terms? When she finished speaking, Su Yi and the others did not hold back and laughed. The other side was embarrassed and was about to refute when Chu Qingyan continued. Also, this young master will definitely protect this white-clothed woman. Unless you can win against this young master's fist, otherwise, go back to wherever you want to go. Chu Qingyan returned their words. To be honest, Chu Qingyan felt a sense of pride as a hero saving a damsel in distress. The 2 of them looked at each other. They knew that they could not gain any advantage from Chu Qingyan. They said weakly to the white-clothed woman, "Sect Master, we will let you off this time. In less than 3 days you will be replaced. At that time, no one will be able to save you." With that said, they left supporting each other like stray dogs. Chu Qingyan shrugged and then turned to look at the white-clothed woman. May I ask how I should address this lady? This one is Chu Qingyan. Sima Jun. Chapter 774. So it's Miss Sima. Nice to meet you. Chu Qingyan cupped her hands in greeting. Greetings, young Master Chu. Sima Jun returned the greeting. With a wave of Chu Qingyan's hand, Su Yi and the others disappeared into the shadows. Miss Sima, your whereabouts have already been exposed. It's best that you find a safe place to rest and recuperate. Chu Qingyan glanced at the two attendants beside Sima Jun and said with concern. In truth, Chu Qingyan had wanted to help at first, but during the battle just now, she realized that the other party's background was not to be underestimated. Moreover, this Miss Sima seemed to be an extraordinary person. With her keen sense of danger, Chu Qingyan felt that it was best for her not to get involved in this mess. Although Sima Jun gave her a subtle feeling, she could not afford to take the risk. Sima Jun saw her expression that said, "You can leave now, I won't send you off," and laughed inwardly. Then, she turned to Chu Qingyan with a worried expression. Young master, we were chased by bandits not long after we arrived in Jiangnan. We can no longer return to the place we're staying at. Moreover, as you can see, we have 2 injured people here. Chu Qingyan's eyebrows twitched. So, help us to the end and help us to the end. Take us in, Sima Jun said with a smile. Hearing such an elegant voice, Chu Qingyan really wanted to refuse, but she still subconsciously agreed. All right. She had really gotten herself into big trouble. She wondered if Big Ice Cube would have thoughts of killing her if he saw her bringing strangers home. To be honest, she was a little afraid. Sima Jun saw that she had reluctantly agreed and smiled even more happily in her heart. What an interesting young man. Initially, she had not wanted to drag him down with her. When she had passed by him earlier, she had sensed that there were experts protecting him. That was why she had turned back to ask him for help. However, when the two sides were fighting, she had sensed that this young man was not ordinary. He was either rich or noble. Ordinary people would not have such powerful hidden guards. Moreover, there were so many of them at once. It was clear that if she could befriend him, she might be able to protect herself. Why hasn't Miss Sima left yet? Chu Qingyan was immersed in her vexed thoughts. After taking 2 steps, she didn't see anyone following her, so she turned around and asked curiously. Sima Jun said helplessly, "I've been drugged." Chu Qingyan was surprised. She didn't feel anything strange about Sima Jun just now. Now that she felt it carefully, she found that her breathing was slightly unstable. From her words, she could guess that she had been drugged long ago. Yet, she was able to hold on until now and escape with her 2 attendants. Just how powerful was this person's martial arts? Chu Qingyan couldn't help but feel admiration and curiosity for this person. Jean Xian, call a carriage over. She ordered. Very quickly, Jean Xian drove the carriage back. Chu Qingyan helped them into the carriage, then ordered Jean Xian to set off quickly. Because when she held Shangguang's hand, she took his pulse and found that his internal injuries were very serious. If they delayed any longer, he might not be able to keep his life. Tan Ying was only lightly injured, and Sima Jun was only immobile. Inside the carriage, Tan Ying said angrily, "If those bastards didn't put a colorless and tasteless anesthetic in Master's food, we wouldn't have been injured so badly." Sima Jun closed her eyes and leaned against the wall of the carriage. When she heard that, she calmly replied, "A hero doesn't talk about his past glory. A defeated man doesn't talk about his misfortune. Speak less and save some energy to regulate your breathing." Chu Qingyan looked at Sima Jun curiously. Although her figure was delicate and soft, her words were powerful. Chu Qingyan thought of the 4 words, imposing without anger. "Don't worry, I have a subordinate who is skilled in medicine in my residence. He will ensure that you are safe and sound." Sima Jun nodded. "Thank you for your trouble." Chu Qingyan could hear the deep fatigue in their voices, so she didn't say anything else. When the carriage entered the residence, Ethereal, who had received the news, was already waiting by the door. When she saw the carriage, She ordered people to help the people inside down and send them to their rooms. Sima Jun glanced indifferently at the residents and the well-trained servants inside. A light flashed in her eyes, then she closed her eyes and handed herself over to this young man she had just met. As Chu Qingyan expected, Sima Jun and Tan Ying's injuries weren't serious. Shangguang's life was hanging by a thread, but with Ethereal's guarantee, he would live well. Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief. After all, these 3 people were saved by her. She had to finish what she started and not let anything happen to any of them. While Ethereal was treating them, Chu Qingyan couldn't help. She planned to go back to her room to change her clothes. After the fight just now, she was sweating a lot. Even her sleeves were stained with blood. She had to quickly get rid of the evidence of her crime. Otherwise, if Big Ice Cube saw it, she would have to bear the consequences. But who was the person sitting in her room? Stop right there. Xiao Su looked up and called out to the person who was about to leave. His tone was as cold as the winter snow. Chu Qingyan bitterly stopped in her tracks and adjusted her expression. Then she cheerfully turned around and said with a smile, "Big Ice Cube, you're back so soon? I was just thinking of going to the kitchen to see if there was anything good to eat." Xiao Su wasn't surprised by the little fellow's ability to lie. "What good thing did you do when you went out today?" "Good thing?" Was he going to criticize her? Yes, how did you know?" "I saw injustice on the road and drew my sword to help," Chu Qingyan said heroically. But when she saw Big Ice Cube's icy face, she immediately collapsed. "I went to fight today." "Fight?" Xiao Su glanced at the bloodstains on her sleeves and snorted coldly. He obviously didn't believe her. She wanted to turn a big issue into a small one, but how could she hide anything from his eyes? Someone must have secretly tattled on her. Don't let her find out. She leaned over and hugged his arm. She said coquettishly, "Oh, okay, I was wrong. Just treat it as if I was practicing target practice. Don't be angry. Aren't I standing in front of you perfectly fine?" Xiao Su saw her wagging her tail pitifully and coquettishly. He couldn't continue lecturing her and felt a headache coming on. On the battlefield, when the enemy threw out the 36 stratagems, he would counter every move. He was basically invincible. Unfortunately, the person in front of him only needed to use one move to utterly defeat him. Moreover, it worked every time. Xiao Su could only pat her head. He put on a strong front and said, "Don't make a move so easily in the future. Be careful not to be caught red-handed." Chu Qingyan nodded. She didn't forget that the people in the capital still thought that they were in Lian City. "I was impulsive." Chu Qingyan sincerely admitted her mistake this time. Xiao Su smiled and raised his hand to pinch her cheek. "It's not considered impulsive. The person you saved has a strong background. If you can become friends, it's also a good thing." "What?" Chu Qingyan felt that the atmosphere had changed too quickly. She couldn't understand. Xiao Su smiled and handed her a piece of paper. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."